No, 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 no! Ah!
CoCoTALK would like to thank our patrons who sponsor our show, so our heartfelt gratitude goes out to Al Hartman, Alan Huffman, Alan Murphy, Amigos Retro Gaming, Blair Ledoux, Brendan Donahe, Brian Weasler, D. Bruce Moore, Davey Mitchell, Diego, Eric Canales, Glenn Hewlett, Graham Vebke, Grant Leedy, Henry Strickland, Jason Downs, Jenna Farron, Ken Riker, Kyle Etter, Malfunk, Michael Pitsley, Rick Hewlin, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, Paul Thayer, Rob Inman, Stephen Wagner, Steve Batson, Steve Rasmussen, Terry Steen, Terry Steggy, Backyard Shed Gang, Tom C., Tom S., Tim Lindner, Tom Heron, and Tony C. Thank you ever so much, patrons. CoCoTALK is an unscripted live broadcast. Anything can and will happen. The views and opinions expressed by members of the panel and the live audience are their own and not necessarily those of the CoCoTALK show, its sponsors, affiliates, or subsidiaries. Open minds encouraged, sense of humor recommended. If any off-color comments were made, we're sorry.
Hi, this is Dale Lear, designer of TRS-80 Color Baseball, and you're listening to CoCoTALK.
This is CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy Color computer. It's time to drop your socks, grab your real-time clocks, and let's rock.
CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world, keeping the Tandy flame alive. We may be mocked, but we'll never stop, cause CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world.
Welcome to CoCoTALK episode 209. I fed the squirrel this morning, so hopefully the bandwidth holds out.
CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world, keeping the Tandy flame alive. We may be mocked, but we'll never stop, cause CoCoTALK is rocking the 8-bit world.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey!
Hello.
So far, we're in the green.
All right.
Famous last words. No, I'm just kidding.
Mm-hmm. All right. Panel introductions. Looks like we have me in the upper left-hand corner. I got my left and rights backwards the other day. So next over, we have Mark Overhoser.
Hey, glad to be here.
Okay. And next up, Tim Linder.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show.
All right. John Laury. How you doing today?
Doing well. Hey, everybody.
All right. Cares Return, line feed. Next up, Ron Delvaux.
Hey. How's it going?
And here we go. Gotta get the right screen. Next up is
Nick Marotta.
Hello.
Okay.
Love that jingle.
Yeah, the
Next
rest
in
of us
our-
are quite jealous you have your own jingle, but go ahead.
You get your
I'm
own
not the
theme
only
song.
one. Not the only one.
He's got the news intro.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right.
but he's got to piggyback on the news intro.
Ah,
Yeah. I'm riding on the news coattails, but I'm Curtis Boyle, by the way. Hello and welcome,
Yes.
everyone.
That's the next person on the list. Okay. Next up, Patrick Euland.
Howdy, folks.
All right. Next line, we have
David Ladd.
It would help if I was unmuted.
He's a strong silent type, folks.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to the show. Is everybody ready for this train ride? I hope you are, because we don't even know what's in store for today. So sit back and wait and explore this together with us. And we'll see where this train ride takes us all. Are we ready?
Yay.
All right, let's get to it. You're up next, Nick.
Nick Marotta, who's also muted.
Or sleeping.
It's only been 209 episodes. You can't expect us
Really?
to.
He's doing Australian sign language right now. You just can't see it.
Well, next up is the maker of all things switches and also famous for.
Stop right there.
We have Jason Reichard.
Hey, everybody. I guess it's not a jingle, but I'll take it.
It's the closest thing I've got.
Yeah, Curtis, you've got your alt reality OS Nitrous 9 module.
Oh yeah, from the radio play we did. That's true.
Okay. Let's see. First up announcements. Remember tonight is the Glenside meetup, 7 o'clock Central Time at the usual Bat channel on BlueJeans.
Yeah, I'll be putting up the specific links and stuff and kind of covering it in the news too, just to remind people later on in the show.
Good deal.
Okay, cool. All right. All right. Did you want to go into the Game On Challenge, Nick?
Sure.
All right. Let's see what we have for Coco Thoughts today.
I don't think we have any today, do we?
And now, Coco
Or do we?
Thoughts
Do we do?
We
by
found something.
Samuel Gimes.
Oh, cool.
High Score Challenge with Nick Marotta.
Yep, let's try that again. I think I know where the problem is.
High Score Challenge with Nick Marotta.
All right, and welcome to another week of results. This week we played Pyramix with 18 scores submitted. Kaylin, 5,900. Our Ellen Murphy, 5,900. Damon Beals, 7,000. Rick Yu, 8,350. Boat of Car, 12,450. Rich N, 16,350. Catlord, 17,060. Kieran, 18,030. Just Mike, 19,490. Canadian Retro Things, 23,490. Mr. Dave, 24,090. Jim Rye, 26,730. David Craker, 27,620. Me, 29,870. Flutterball, 29,940. L. Curtis Boyle, 32,810. Buck Owens, 83,010. And the number one score this week belongs to Tasman with 84,230. Way to go, excellent scores. And thank you for another great week of gaming, and thank you for all the scores submitted.
Yay, Tasman!
So Buck Owens and Tasman were playing on a different level than the rest of us.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Divide by 10, we'll even it all up.
We have handicaps like golf does, right?
Yeah. So, all right. So my screen should be popping up any minute.
Yeah, I see it here.
All right. Let me just try and rearrange. All right, good. I'll rearrange my desktop. Okay, so here's the scores from Rainbow, which have been blown away by Buck Owens and Tasman, but so definitely possible score. And we have a review from Rainbow, which was favorable. They loved it, and they thought that shows the power of the CoCo 3 graphics at its best. And Curtis also sent me a link to a review from Dynamic Color Computer, which was a newsletter of some sort.
It was kind of a newsletter home magazine thing. It actually ran for multiple years. It was actually pretty long running, like from the mid 80s up till around 90 or something. It's all archived on the Color Computer Archive, but it was an average of probably about 40, 50 pages an issue or something like that. But it lasted between the Color Computer 1, 2 and the Color Computer 3 era, which basically only Rainbow and a couple other newsletter type things survived. Most of the other magazines stopped before the CoCo 3 came out. So I thought it was kind of neat that they actually had a review of it for you to go.
They explained the game, how to play it, and they apparently they must like it. They didn't say anything bad about it. They just this was more of a matter of fact what the game is, what it involves. But I think I didn't hear anything negative. So, and also from that same issue, they had an ad for Pyramix. So
yeah, it sounds like a Dynamic Electronics, I believe, is the company that actually ran Dynamic Color Computer News, and it sounds like they were actually an authorized reseller of it from that ad. So
yeah, $24.95 on disc. Just send your check or Visa or MasterCard number to that address, and you'll be able to get yourself a copy.
yeah, or you can send them to me. That's fine too.
What? No COD?
Yeah. All right. So once again, we have gameplay from Canadian Retro Things. Thank you for that, and check out his channel for retro stuff, including CoCo and other retro systems. So yeah, this was a very close clone to Cuthbert. Missing a couple of things. Missing the guys that jumped sideways on the cubes, Ugg and Wrong Way, and instead they substituted in a death square, which I wasn't a fan of, to be honest. Because, well, first it was hard, random, aggressive, went on the top cube, so that could mess you up if you went on the elevator at the wrong time, or the disc. And it didn't stop when you got the green ball. So
yeah, that was one thing I found out the hard way too.
So it was actually I think that was that made the game a lot harder than it would have been otherwise, with rather than Ugg not Wrong Way. But the guy was 18 when he coded. 18, or he was in high school?
Oh, grade 8.
Oh, grade 8. Oh my God, grade 8. So can't really fault him too much.
Like he was probably about 13 when he wrote this.
Yeah. So
for really first effort, and the CoCo 3 was new when this came out. I mean, this is one of the games that came out the first year. One of the very first third-party games actually came out in like mid 87 or early 87 or something like that. And the CoCo only really had been out since October of 86. So for somebody who's that young, who's never coded a machine language game before, never touched a CoCo 3 before, this is pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, I'd say. And it had a lot of different options for control. You could have it where you have to push the button to jump, where you jump automatically and push the button to stop jumping, or where it just jumps automatically and the button doesn't do anything. So you're just constantly jumping until you center.
Yeah, or so keyboard
keyboard. So he gave a lot of control options. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, and he's got that nice hardware scroll with the whole triangle, pyramid, whatever you want to call it, thing kind of bounces onto the screen every time you start.
Yeah.
I would have liked my deluxe joystick to have the anti-switch. So instead of pulling it towards the center, it shoved it towards the edges.
I like the deluxe joystick for this because it has well-defined corners. So I was just, even though somebody mentioned that the deluxe has a long throw, which it does. So I was just whipping that stick in free phone mode from corner to corner.
That's why I could have used the anti-centering option to force it to snap to the edges when you started that way. It would have added quite a few points to my score. I kept falling off in ways I didn't intend to go.
Yeah. So
I was lucky I didn't do that too often. the main problem I had is when you get to the higher levels where you're not only having to jump on the cubes twice to change it to the color, but also when you jump on them again, it reverts the color back. So you're constantly screwing your own self up as you're going. That was a bugger.
Cuthbert does that too. It's very faithful to the machine. Scott Cooper, also known as Tasman, hated the death squares as well. So imagine his score had there not been the death squares. I mean, he only got 84,000 with the death squares. So I'm sure he would have done, gotten a decent score if there were. I say that with my 29,000 score in comparison. So,
well, as I mentioned in the comment I put with my score, which was just in the low 30s, I wasn't much past you, is that was the very first game I had out of about 6 or 7, and that was as good as it ever got. It just went downhill.
One thing I did notice with the snake too is he would jump off the edge even if you took the disc up early. When you're floating up, he'd jump off the edge to chase after you. And I don't know if the arcade did that.
Yeah, I can't remember. Some other CoCo clones did do that, and some others he would change direction and kind of follow you up to the top. So
yeah,
I can't remember what the arcade did.
Yeah. One thing I liked about the arcade was when you jumped off of the edge, they had a physical like hammer or something inside the unit in some sort of relay, and it would whack would go psh, and you hear this whack sound. There was a physical hammer inside the unit that would bang on the unit.
That was a pinball knocker by I think it was Gottlieb. You know the knocker you hear in a pinball when you win a free game? And does that.
Okay, yeah.
It was a pinball knocker in the bottom of the case, that Gottlieb put in.
Yeah. That's kind of funny. Pinball was dying and people are looking in the warehouse and saying, what are we going to do with these 150,000 pinball knockers? I know.
Yeah. And of course, he also did speech balloon with the fake expletive, which he doesn't do here. But yeah, Cuthbert was a cute game.
It was, yeah.
There was actually a sequel in development, but it never came to the arcade. But you could get the ROM from MAME called Faster, Harder, More Challenging Cuthbert by the same author.
Really?
And it never made it to the arcade, but he released it to the emulation scene back in the 90s. So you're able to play it in MAME.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's called Faster, Harder, More Challenging Cuthbert. At least that's the name.
He added a death square, didn't he?
Yeah.
Bastard.
And then there was also another sequel called Cubes, which I don't know if you guys remember, where you just had to jump on cubes and rotate them to make them all the target color. And it wasn't a pyramid shape. It was more rows of these cubes.
More like a blockhead layout type thing?
But they weren't connected. It was hard to describe. It was called Cubes, Qubes. I used to like that game as well.
I know there's a Dragon one that's in a higher semi-graphics mode. I think it's SG24, so it does like 9 colors. But it has randomly shaped, well, not randomly, they're fixed, but there's different shapes of the cube arrangements for every level. So there's like, there'd be a pyramid, might be a block, there might be a thing with little platforms and stuff. So that one's actually quite an interesting one. We'll have to see if we cover that one at some point in the future too.
Done in SG24?
Yeah.
What's it called?
I think it's called Pogo Joe or something like that. I can show it to you when we get to the game news, because Cuthbert Dragon, after canceling his page and wiping it out, actually uploaded like a couple dozen, 3 dozen, 4 dozen videos just this past week. So he's redoing the channel again. He seems to do a cleanup and redo every once in a while. I don't know why. Makes it a bugger to try to find stuff after the fact, but I'll show it to you then. Remind me, John.
Okay.
Actually, I'm remembering more about that cubes game now. So yeah, they were rows, but the cubes were not connected. They were a bit of a distance apart that you could jump. And as you jumped off a cube, it would rotate. So the object was to jump off the cubes to make them rotate so that the target color was on top. So it was a bit different than Cuthbert.
I'll have to check that out. I never saw that one, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a cool game. So I don't believe any ports of that were done but that's also in MAME.
I bow to your arcade knowledge.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in the arcade back in the early 80s.
I did too, but I didn't see that one in particular. I guess I kind of got out of going to arcades regularly by about 85, 86, except for the university ones. So my exposure was a bit limited by that time.
Yeah. Well, Faster, Harder, More Challenging never made it to the arcade. That was just from the emulation scene, but the other one did. The Cubes did. Qubes.
So any strategies for this one?
Well, I watched CRT's video, and he liked to leave the top square till the end and just catch it with one of the discs. For me, no, I just the first couple levels you could kind of clear without too much trouble. Just if you just keep your button down, keep your finger. I like to play where you had to push the button, but also if you leave the button down, you'd also auto jump. So I would just keep the button down and clear out the first level before any enemies could appear. And the second level, you could almost do that too. Avoid that stupid death square.
Yeah, I think like in my case, same thing. I played where you had to hold down the button to jump just because that's what I'm used to. I usually, and I don't know why I started doing this on the earlier CoCo 1 and 2 versions. I think I even did it in the arcade too. I don't know, can't remember how well it worked there, but I usually will go down to the left to the bottom and then I just zigzag across the bottom and then come back up and start filling it in. I don't know why I do that. I don't know if that's advantageous.
That's what CRT does as well. See, he did that. So yeah, I like to do that as well. Just stick to the bottom. Even when you'd have to do multiple, I would do that. You know, I would go back up to the top and go back down to the bottom across. Yeah, I like doing that as well. Maybe it's our OCD where it's, you know, it's sort of very orderly.
Maybe we just suck at arcade games. I don't know. I'd like to see what did you get? I saw that Buck had released a video on Twitch of his gameplay for his 84,000s or 82,000, whatever his high score, and I didn't get a chance to watch it except for the very beginning. So I'm not sure. Did he have a specific order he was doing them into, or?
I don't know. I did download the video, but I was not able to play it in the browser. I like to play it in the browser because if I try to stream the video, it makes it makes things choppy for me. So I can't play it in the browser. But check out the Discord channel, and there's a link to his game. There's a link to an excerpt of his video. He didn't show the whole thing, just his near the end where he got the top score or his top score.
Yeah, it was fun watching the two Titans battle it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the rest of us are battling for table scraps.
That's right. I just wanted to break 30,000 and I couldn't do that. That was my.
I did twice, my first game and my second game, which is about 2,000 less than I had for my high score. And then it just literally, it just went down. I think my final game was like 7,000. And I just said, that's enough.
Yeah.
It's a nice game though. It's a nice early CoCo 3 game. The only real fault I have with it, and it's not really a fault. It's just, you know, because of what we know later from using FRQs and stuff here, is that the sound could have been, I think, much improved. It's fairly basic, but I mean, for something done by a 13-year-old and two done within the first year, less than the first year of the hardware being released, and nobody knew how to program any of that stuff yet. It's a darn fine first early effort,
I'd say. Yeah, absolutely. I can't imagine running a game like this as your first. Is this his first? We know if this is his first, or we just know he was. Well, we know he was in grade 8, so he was early anyway.
Yeah,
early in his life.
grade 8, I had barely started learning basics. So
yeah.
I mean, granted, it's an earlier era too, but yeah, that was beyond me. I couldn't do this even today.
Nope. All right. So are we ready to talk about next week's game?
Yep. Unless anybody else has any tips, tricks, etc.
Let's see. Check the chat.
Bats and bouquets.
Not a whole lot in chat. AC did play this week, but he didn't submit it. He didn't submit a score this week. Just noticed you were not here, AC.
Yeah, there was a couple of comments. Let me find them here. David Kraker said 80K is insane. I agree.
Yeah, I can't.
Scott Cooper, of course, hated the Death Square. It's evil. AC's 8-Bit Zone commented that the author Jordan was a prodigy, and that's true. I don't think he did anything else after that. He might have done some utilities or something. I don't think he did any other games. I don't know if maybe it just didn't sell well, or I mean, piracy was rampant back then. So
yeah.
60 said the random square was the worst.
Oh, it was terrible.
It would appear under you mid jump.
Yeah. No, it was definitely harder than what it replaced. Those UG and wrong way guys. I mean, they jumped on the sides of the cubes. They were a pain too, but I think the Death Square was an unfair trade.
Yeah, definitely a challenge. I mean, it was okay if the Death Square wandered off to the other side of the the pyramid and you were busy on the opposite side to it, then you could just wander around fairly well with impunity. But once he was on your side and that's where your last few squares was, it was like, get the heck out of the way. There's no way to. He's not smart and follow you around, so you can't like lure him and then go around him. He just randomly withers around and
he wasn't on every level, thankfully, but he was on every round. Like he's not on this round, for example. I don't know if he was just on round 2, 3, and 4 or 3 and 4. I didn't pay attention to.
Now Scott Cooper does have one tip he gave. He said he would leave one square open, and then I would stay at the top and wait for the green guys to boost my score only on the earlier levels.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's the only place you got scoring with. Well, jumping on a cube gave you a score, but jumping on a green guy's luring the snake.
Yeah, I think that's true because I did clear the first level just without even hitting anything else. I didn't use the discs. I didn't hit any of the green things, and I think it's 2,500 points you get for all the squares. And then one time I did wait around. And I got both of the green things, the freeze time one and the what the one's called. And then my score is like 3,500, 3,800 because I had used discs and stuff. So yeah, you can definitely boost your score by not progressing to the next level as quickly.
Yeah.
And then you don't get that stupid death square for longer. So that's a plus.
That's true. Yeah. Bottom line is we hate that death square.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to hack the game to remove that. Perfect.
Here's your chance to learn ML, Nick.
All right. So thanks again, guys, for this week's result turnout. And I'll reveal next week's game. So I'm kind of bucking the trend a little bit. We're actually doing another game for CoCo 3. But it's a game that was originally on the CoCo 1 and 2, and then it was upgraded for the 3. And I'm sure you guys will know what this is.
Not a clue.
Crikey.
Looks like a worthless game.
Donut Dilemma by our very own Nick Marotta.
I'm being hounded by that game.
So So this game is available for free off Nick's website. If you go to you go to his site and you go to Project Archive and you scroll down to Donut Dilemma 2019.
Very bottom. Yeah.
And then you scroll down to the very bottom and you can download yourself a copy of Donut Dilemma CoCo 3. And it's cool because one of the things he did for the CoCo 3 was he put a black border instead of the white border. So it's got a nice black border. And it also supports joystick, which his original game did not. Now there is a warning with the joystick. You need a 2-button joystick, or you'll have to use the space bar to fire, because the object of the game is to get all the flashy. There's some flashing squares you have to collect, and then get to the elevator. And then there's a little bag of dough you can pick up that gives you 5 shots. You can shoot the donuts, you can shoot the donuts. So you'll need to use to aim with your joystick and press the space bar to fire the shot at the donuts, but you jump with the button. Or if you have a 2-button joystick, then that's the easiest. So
I think you just hold the second button down or the space bar, and then you just tap the joystick left or right.
Oh, that's good.
And it just throws the dough in that direction.
Oh, okay.
Now, does this version still work on the CoCo 1.2, or does anybody want to play this on the CoCo 1.2? Has to go back to get the CoCo 1 and 2 version.
Now, the CoCo 1 and 2 version, if you scroll up to the top, where I do cover the CoCo 1 and 2 original version, you can download that as well.
Oh.
But between the two games, the scoring is a little bit different. I think it's a bit easier on the CoCo 3 one. Plus, you get more lives, and it's joystick versus keyboard only.
Is it on this page?
I think no, it was on that other page you're on just before.
Okay.
Like the main CoCo.
The main. No, yeah, there. So go down a bit, just under this.
Click here to download the original CoCo 1 2 versions.
Yeah. So now the original CoCo 1 and 2 versions used PAL artifacting. So they have a bit of a stripy look to them. That's how the original one was. Because on a color TV set back in the day, that actually produced extra colors, like the center part of the screen there, which has got stripes of cyan and magenta, I think. On a TV set, on a PAL TV set, they tended to blend together and made a nice blue. So one of the first, or maybe the first, PAL artifact color game. So you had a total of 6 colors in this mode, as opposed to the P mode 4.3. So it looked pretty good, but that was for an old CRT TV, which nowadays we've got, proper monitors, and the picture quality doesn't quite represent the extra colors so well. So it's still playable.
Right.
And with the download is the original manual as well, if people want to play it. But for this challenge, it's the CoCo 3 version, which is down the bottom.
Yes.
It's been improved in a few areas.
And you can play.
But are you allowing CoCo 1 and 2 people to join in if that's all they have that they can play?
I don't think Nick is, no.
Well, I don't know. If it's a difference between somebody being able to, if the CoCo 2 version is actually harder, it doesn't give them an advantage, right? So maybe we should let them in case someone's stuck and can't play any other way.
Unless you just have two score tallies.
Yeah.
One for the CoCo 1 and 2 and 1, or just have it so that with the score, you've also put a little marker to indicate which version you got that score on.
Nick, you said the scoring is easier on the CoCo 3 version?
The scores are the same, but for starters, you get 9 lives on the CoCo 3
Oh, there
version.
you go, yeah.
So we should handicap Tasman and Buck Owens to play the CoCo 1 and 2 version, and the rest of us poor slobs can get the CoCo 3 version and at least have a fighting chance.
I say
in hell.
play the CoCo 3 version because people can use people can use VCC or MAME if they don't have a CoCo 3.
Yeah.
Because we've got that's the same with any CoCo 3 game. So let's treat it as a CoCo 3 game. And
I would say that anybody wants to play the CoCo 1 2 version, say they only have joysticks for a real CoCo 1 2 and they don't have one for MAME or something, then go ahead. We want you to participate. We'll do a little asterisk thing just to mention which.
We'll maybe do a shout out to people who played CoCo 2 version and something like that. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, and Nick, do you still have the NTSC?
Does the CoCo 1 and 2 doesn't support joysticks?
No, it's keyboard only.
Right. Actually, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like 3 or 4 keys at once, I think, or something too.
Yeah. So the manual is included with the download. But back in the day, of course, I could play the keyboard version. But nowadays, my fingers just get tied up in a knot. So
yeah.
Now, just one last question. Do you have the NTSC CoCo 1 and 2 version still available if anyone want to try that?
I could probably put that
I know you had it up
together
at one time. I don't know where it went.
Yeah, I know. I can, NTSC version. All I've done is I've taken the stripes out. That's all. I'll try add it. How's that? I'll make both versions for the CoCo 1 and 2 available.
Just give people some options. I mean, you don't want to lock anybody out.
But for the official challenge, it's the CoCo 3 version.
It's the CoCo 3 one, which has several features, namely also things like it uses the higher clock speed on the CoCo 3, so it's a bit faster and smoother. It also, as Nick mentioned, it's a black background because that was one of the things I wanted to.
Yeah, because you have a fetish about that. So
yeah, I hate those bright white or green borders. I always wanted a black background. And I was thinking, I said, well, the CoCo 3 can change the border, but it can't do it when it's emulating a CoCo 1 and 2. It tries to do it the same as a real CoCo 1 and 2, where you can't change the border. But in a gimme mode, you can. So then I thought, I wonder what happens if I actually create a video mode, which is an equivalent to the P mode 3 mode on the gimme. And would the game still play? Would it even know the difference? So I tried it, created a gimme mode, which was the same res, same colors, same position in memory, and the program ran. It never knew
no
the
changes.
difference. No changes. No.
Just the setup of the graphics mode itself on the hardware, and then you're done.
So technically, you can take any CoCo 1 and 2 game that uses P mode 3, say, and if you had the source code to change it so that it opened up a gimme equivalent mode, you could then turn the border off. That was, but unfortunately, yeah, I think it's a bit late nowadays. That would have been good back in the day.
Yeah, and if you did do that, you might as well change the palettes to make them a bit more appropriate. Too.
Well, that's what I did with Donut. I even changed the palette colors. So,
yeah, there's no magenta. It's orange. Oh, there is magenta.
I still got the magenta, but the blue background.
That's different. Yeah,
but
and
that
yellow,
was the yellow. That was the blue. That was the blue that you got when you ran the PAL artifact colors. So that's how it looked with the bright blue background. But
yeah, kind of a yellowish white.
Yeah,
buff. Yeah, it's a nice color set you chose. All right,
it's still only 4 colors, but yeah. All right. Anyway,
so that's our game for the week. So, like I said, CoCo 3 version is the official challenge version. If there's anybody out there who, for some reason, cannot play CoCo 3 version in an emulator or whatever, then I'll mention you as a CoCo 2 player, but the score won't be in the list and won't be like ranked or anything. All right. So, thank you, Mark Bosley, and thank you, panel, and thanks for everybody who participated this week. And we'll see you next week.
Okay.
You are watching CoCoTALK, the world's leading weekly video podcast, featuring a candy-colored computer. We spread the love to the past, present, and future for all models, including the original color computer, the CoCo 3, and the world-renowned exclusive French-Canadian CoCo 2, the Radio Shack.
Hi, this is Eddie Zerbinski from beautiful Quebec City. Vous écoutez CoCoTALK.
As you're enjoying CoCoTALK, we also want to remind you about the CoCo Discord server. This is a place where people come to connect, to ask questions, to provide answers, to share information, and to socialize. So when you're done, why don't you head on over to the CoCo Discord server and we'll continue the conversation there. The easy to remember link is discord.cocotalk.live. See you on Discord. CoCo 123 is the Glenside Color Computer Club community newsletter that's been in publication since 1985. While the Rainbow magazine may be gone, it doesn't mean you still can't have a cool CoCo periodical. Head on over to the Glenside Color Computer website at glensideccc.com and then click on the Documents link to view all the past issues of the CoCo 123 newsletter. Not only can you read all of the past and present issues, we'd also love to hear some submissions from you. So if you'd like to send an article, a column, something to talk about, maybe even a program listing, send an email to glensideccc@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. The CoCo World Map is a cool community resource where you can view coconuts from around the world. Head on over to map.cocotalk.live and see where your fellow coconutsians happen to be living on the planet Earth. If you would like to submit yourself to be on the CoCo map, send an email to cocotalk@cocotalk.live, and we look forward to seeing you on the CoCo map. Hey guys, it's Stevie Strode, and if you've been watching CoCoTALK for a while, hopefully you understand that everyone is welcome to join this show. You don't need an impressive resume to get on. You just need to enjoy the CoCo and be willing to talk about it. There is no wrong way to CoCo. There is no wrong way to be a fan of the CoCo. There's no wrong way to be on CoCoTALK. You just have to want to talk CoCo. So if you would like to join us, then reach out to us on our Discord server, which is discord.cocotalk.live, or send an email to cocotalk@cocotalk.live, and let's get you on the show and let's talk about the CoCo.
Hi, I'm Tim, and you're watching CoCoTALK Live. And I'm playing Daggereth online like that idiot from the book.
Can you dial back on the condescension there as you respond there?
And we're back. And we've been joined by special guest Ron Klein. Now let me find the button to make him bigger.
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah.
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 Perfect. Well, thank you for having me on.
Okay, so basically we wanted to have you on because there was a couple of questions about the CoCoPi and using it specifically, I believe, on the Pi 4. And I know you've been mentioning you've been doing some updates, which are now available on Stevie's site. So we wanted to give some details on what has been updated, what was the problem, what has changed, etc.
Yeah, there were numerous updates I did to the operating system itself, just to keep that current. And then obviously we keep MAME up to date. XWAR hasn't had any updates recently. But a lot of the development tools and things like that I updated. In addition to it, I've added on the CoCoPi 4, or for the Raspberry Pi 4, X Windows is back on again. You can actually run MAME under X Windows, and now because of that, you can run the MAME debugger, which was something some people were asking for. So that all seems to be working. And then Stevie wanted the ability to run Quick Basic 4. They do have a Linux port, and that's working under X Windows as well. I think he likes to do some development with that, so I went ahead and added that. There's numerous script updates. There's other options for running the various emulators, like the MC-10 still has the MCX128 support that Tim added some versions ago. That all works with the built-in Pi drive wire. In addition to that, the regular Java drive wire is still on there if you want to use it. So there's just a lot of little things. I've been trying to come up with a change log. And the other big thing, as well as those numerous changes, is I've done some revamping on GitHub for doing updates for the scripts and things like that. So once people download, if they download the new SD card image, I think I can update pretty much everything I need to now from GitHub outside of just the OS. So your latest MAME releases, everything else, I've been doing that, but the scripts are all cleaned up and that all seems to be working. So.
Okay, and then the issues that a couple of people had trying to get the Raspberry Pi 4 to work have all been resolved? Or like, is there certain updates they have to do of their own stuff first to make this work?
No, it's in the latest version. So it was an operating system upgrade. It was something they had to resolve to get the keyboard to work if you were running an earlier version of Raspbian, and that seems to be working now. So if you download the latest image, it's about 7 gig to download. It'll fit on a 16 gig card. I recommend minimum 32. It seems crazy. This project's been around for about 4 years now, and people are like, how can you possibly use 16 gig worth of stuff? It's not the CoCo stuff so much. It's all the development tools and everything else. And Raspbian, even though you can get a light version of it, by the time you add some of the libraries you need for X Windows, and I make it where people can compile if they want to download some of the projects that people have put out there on GitHub for the CoCo. They can do all that, and they can compile all this stuff because I've added all the libraries and things that are needed for that. So there's actually a lot that people don't use on this project, but from a development standpoint, there is a lot there.
Okay, cool. I will mention Kieran does have a kind of an alpha beta, whatever you want to call it, an update to XWAR for cleaning up the way it reads cassettes.
Oh, okay.
Some of the older cassettes that have ghost images. It's directly from his site, but I don't think it's on his main GitHub or anything yet because he's still, experimenting with it and making sure it works properly.
Yeah,
so
he sends me links to his development stuff. I'll have to take a look, and if it's on there, I will. I'll compile one and I'll put it up on GitHub. And when people do updates, it'll pull it right down.
Yeah, I'll be mentioning it on the news there, so I don't know if you'll still be around for that part, but you can check it out at where I can just tell you now if you want.
Yeah.
So basically, he said it allows some tapes to load properly now if they had some faint ghosting echoing in the background. The way he was doing the crossovers and stuff was a bit too fussy. And he said he found that actually on a commercial Galagon tape had a little bit of that ghosting in the background. It wouldn't load properly. Now it will. So that's basically what his little patch update is.
Okay.
Should make some tapes more reliable, basically. Does anybody else have any questions? Has anybody tried the CoCoPi on a Pi 4 on the panel?
I'm still on the Pi 3, and I enjoy that.
Has anybody on the panel got a Pi 4?
I still support the Pi 3. I keep as much updated on that as possible. Just the X Windows part. It runs, but you can't run MAME under it. You can't run XWR under it. Because on that platform, I compile it just for the console. So that's why the Pi 4 having some better performance, it allows me to run those emulators now under X Windows. So
or RAM too, right?
yeah, RAM wise, I have a 4 meg Raspberry Pi 4, and that's doing fine. The 8 meg versions are out now. I don't know if there's any benefit for the emulator so much, but if you're going to do more on the Raspberry Pi 4, like make it more of a desktop type thing, then I could see where that might be a benefit.
What was that, Mark? I didn't catch what you said there.
It's gigabyte, not megabyte.
I'm sorry, gigabyte. Jeez.
Unfortunately, we flip back so far between
Wow.
kilobytes, megabytes, and gigabytes.
Yes.
Who needs more than 4K anyway?
Thank you for the correction.
Exactly. Where's my CoCo one, by the way?
Technically.
Well, now I can put my 4 to good use because it's been waiting for a suitable reason to learn it, and now I've got one.
Looks like you have a Model 100 back there serving something propped up like it's busy.
Oh, that's the 3.
Actually, I have. Oh yeah, there is a Model 100 there. I have that hooked up. A real floppy drive sitting there. A TP10, and then the MC-10 there. And then above it's the Raspberry Pi 400. And then you don't see it off to the side, but I do have a DMP 130, and I blame Mike Rowan for that because of his latest little project with printing. I can't believe I went out and got a dot matrix printer again. But I did, and I like it. It's the first time I heard the sound. Boy, did that bring back some memories. So, yeah. So it's a neat.
Yeah, there was quite a few people experimenting with it. I had a few requests for Nitrous 9 to put in an alternate boot with real, printer driver support rather than the standard drive wire.
Yeah,
printer
well, I
support.
have the printer, so if you, I'd use it if you did it.
You still get ribbons for yours?
I did. There is a source for ribbons. They're about $12 or $13, so they're not super cheap, but they work real well. So you can get ribbons.
And I guess one big advantage of using actual real line printers versus modern laser and inkjets is if you have any carbon paper and you want to make multiple copies by only printing once, that's the only way it works because it needs the impact to.
Yes,
Right.
you could do that. Yep.
In fact, when I ran out of ribbons for the old DMP 105, I would just stick a carbon in it and print that way.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
Good
this
idea.
thing- and it's got near letter quality mode if you have the DMP 130, which is fantastic.
So what's your experience? Did you actually have a Pi 4? How does it running the emulators? Is it basically the same as running a 3 except
does-
smoother, or does it have
Yeah, it does
advantages?
real well. In fact, I can let me see if I can share a screen here.
Ron, can I print from my Pi 3?
You can, and you can print from the Pi 4. How it works? Well, it depends now. So if you run Brett Gordon's YADOS, you pick one of the emulators with that. You can actually use that along with Pi Drive Wire, and it's got printing support. So it'll write out to basically a PDF file in a folder where you can take that and then send it to a printer. So anyone that's pulls this right out of, they download the image, it's ready to go with that. If you want to do real printing from the emulated CoCo or whatever on there, or any of your actual CoCos on a network, you can follow Mike Rowan's project, and you can do that.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, let me see if I can share a screen. You know if you guys see that.
Yep.
Okay. So this is the latest image. And it's just basically downloaded. I haven't done anything with it. And I know there's actually Steve put out a nice video some time ago on the first steps that you should do when you get this. But basically, I can step through a couple of them real quick. One of the first things that I do is I go into RASP config and I just resize the file system. Now there is a way to do that through automation, because Raspbian has that ability now, but I'm going to go ahead and just do it now. So basically, I reboot after that. This is I believe a 32 or 64 gig card. We'll let this boot up. And this is a Raspberry Pi 4. That's where it fills the file system. And there we go. One of the other things I do is I go in, a lot of people, this is another question a lot of people still ask, is about the ROM images. So there's an option right here. Grab all the ROMs. It extracts them, and there you go. Now there is one version of MAME and XOR on here. I had to save some space. It's the latest version 2.3.0, but you can take this option down here, which is the GitHub repo update. This is anytime I put out updates to scripts, but also it'll pull down, and this is going to take just a couple, maybe a minute or so, because what it's going to do, it's going to pull down probably the last 8 versions of MAME and the other previous version of XOR. And the nice thing about that is if there is an update to MAME, and let's say there's a bug in it, you can go through a menu option and pick the version of MAME or XOR that you want to run as the default.
That's a good idea, because we do know that MAME occasionally breaks stuff unintentionally, of course, but yeah, that sometimes takes a couple of versions to get fixed up again. And that has affected the CoCo in the past.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's a matter of just space. I think with a compiled version of MAME on the Raspberry Pi with some of the default folders, it's averaging about something like 500 meg to have that installed. So if you have multiple versions, because when I compile it with the tools it comes with, like the floppy tools and things like that. It should be pretty quick here. Like I said, it's pulling down about 8 different versions of MAME right now, and any script updates and everything else. So let's let it finish. Oh, 32%. Holy cow.
Now, a quick question for you, for the people that are a bit more game oriented.
Yes.
I know there's a lot of front ends for MAME to make it easier to select game images, like you might have a screenshot of the game or even some sound effects, whatever. Since this is now running X Windows and a full windowing system, is that something that's able to do on, or would be able to do in the future on the Pi?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of advances in the MAME support on, and I'll mention the RetroPi project. The whole reason that this project started with me is because they were not providing the latest version of MAME. They were using a very old version of MAME, and I wanted to run the latest for CoCo emulation. And that led to, all right, how do I compile the latest source? How do I get it to work? Accelerated video libraries and everything else. And that was a great learning experience. And then from there, it kind of just took off for some of the things I wanted. It was a completely different project than RetroPi. There is a person now maintaining the latest versions of MAME for the RetroPi project. And the thing is, there's no one out there that's actually providing pre-compiled binaries for MAME for the Raspberry Pi. So with RetroPi, here we go, it's going to finish up for you. That's just syncing everything. This is where it goes through and looks at all the available files and scripts. And the first time you run this, it takes, it's the longest. After this, everything's pretty quick, and then now we're up to date. So if I were to, oh, there's something else I want to do. I don't want to get too sidetracked. Yeah, there's a lot of other stuff here. Anytime you pair up Bluetooth controllers, I have a thing where you can save the information and restore it if you need to. Same with your MAME emulator configuration files and XOR. There's the ability to save those off. So if you make changes and something breaks, you can restore those. That's all stuff that's part of this utilities menu. There's quite a bit in here. Forgot about this. This is something new. So for people that have a CoCo and they're connected up to a Raspberry Pi, you can load HDB DOS through your, like a cassette, cable. So like, let's say somebody's cell phone or whatever to get HDB DOS loaded very easily. That works on this now. There's an application here to play the audio, so you can plug that in. And it's using some stuff that David Ladd set up, which is the ability to load much faster off the cassette. So that's actually kind of a handy thing. You can actually get HDB DOS going now on a CoCo that all that you have is maybe a drive wire cable, this Raspberry Pi, and you have nothing else to. And again, this would be more for like a real CoCo if you were plugging that into this Raspberry Pi. It works under
Ron,
Oh, David, is that you?
No, Ron, that's a really good point. That not only is this a good distribution for people who want to run the emulators, but it's also pretty handy for people to use with real CoCos.
Yes, that's exactly what I was hoping. I mean, it really is a great small device. It doesn't take up much room. And again, somebody with a brand new CoCo that you get off of eBay, they don't have anything yet. If they had a Raspberry Pi and a drive wire cable, they can still enjoy a lot of things from this distribution. So there is some support I started adding. There's nothing here yet. It's on the menu. This is for Brett Gordon's game and some other things that are coming out for the network stuff. I've kind of just put a placeholder there for it that it doesn't do anything yet, but I've been doing some playing around with it on my development version.
Actually, Mark Oberhoser, you might be able to give us a bit of an update on that too, because you're one of the beta testers on the network stuff too, aren't you?
Well, yeah. That's actually three things. The RVPN is something that Brett's been working on for a bit. Basically a VPN client that runs that'll let you create a network within a network. So I'm running a couple of stations with Raspberry Pi and my Unix system. So is Brett, so is Ron, and so we can actually ping around the individual systems that are actually going on the real internet, although it really uses the internet. But yeah, that's be one of the things. But the other stuff, of course, is the Alcaron game, which is network-based, currently using DriveWire, and then there's the network cards, the CoCo Nick that Jim Brain is hopefully going to find shortly. Last believe they might be on the what was the barge that got stuck in the Suez?
Yeah, I asked Jim about it.
Ever Given?
I think he ordered some of the cards. I don't know when he's going to get them yet.
Yeah, he's thinking they might be on the Ever Given. So anyway, and then of course Rick Euland's CoCo.io, which there's a few protos out there, and it's actually looking really positive. But we got to write drivers, so everything's in progress.
Okay, cool. Nice to get an update now. We haven't heard from Brett in a while, so.
Yeah, and I was just downloading some of the other things like your Nitrous 9, the latest version of Phuzix, just did that. The other big one a lot of people ask about, and this one I have to keep up to date. That's why it's nice to have the ability to download or to send updates to GitHub, is the link for the CoCo SDC image. Even though this is not a CoCo SDC, you can load all the software that's part of that. Obviously, except for SDC Explorer. That will not work because that you have to have a real piece of hardware for that.
Okay. There'll be another new EOU coming out within a week or two too, so.
Okay, yeah, and then people can download that latest image as well if they decide to through this. And again, for people that have real CoCo hardware or MC-10 hardware, it's still a great little device to plug into for that. In fact, my other Raspberry Pi, it's a 3, older one. I have my CoCo 1, 2, and 3 hooked up to it all at the same time. It's actually hosting files to all three at the same time, and the ability to still run the emulator on it with the vector port. So it actually has 4 sessions in Pi DriveWire to do that.
So what would you recommend these days, given the current pricing, current hardware options, as a minimum that somebody will have a very comfortable CoCo experience with? Do you need a 4 for that, do you think, or is a 3 perfectly fine, or does it depend on what you're doing, or what?
The 3 will work, but I recommend going to the 4. The performance difference to me from what I see with compiling and things like that, it really is that much faster.
And minimum RAM, minimum SD card size, any recommendations?
Yeah, SD card size, I would say, 32 gig for this distribution. But, look for sales. If there's a special on a 64 gig card, again, depending on what you want to do with it, you'll have extra space for other things. I just look for things that are on sale through Amazon or whatever, and look for actually Best Buy. There's just quite a few places that you can get SD cards.
Yes, SD cards aren't that expensive at all. I picked up a bunch off of Amazon recently. They're about $10-15 each.
Yeah. No reason to go with the smaller cards now because of price. So yeah, you can see it's extracting everything. Things
And
like
how much is a Raspberry Pi 4 these days, and what RAM configurations did it have, and do you have a recommendation on those?
4 meg, I think would be, it may work. I thought they had did they have a 1 and a 4? I'm sorry, meg gig. 1,
2.
They did have a 2. I know they have the 4.
Now the 8.
Yeah, you don't need 8. You might not even need 4. I don't really think you need 4. Certainly not for the emulators.
The 2 gig version is $35. And that's, not including the power supply.
Right. The big thing is to get a proper power supply. I will tell you, a lot of people sometimes will try to use they'll buy the non-kit version, save the money to get their Raspberry Pi, and then they'll use like an older, wall wart or whatever for power. You can't skimp on power on these things. And that's the other thing I'll mention too, with the Raspberry Pi 3 distribution, that is still slightly overclocked. I needed it to get the performance. With the Raspberry Pi 4 and the 400. You don't have to do that anymore.
You do need a USB-C dongle though.
Yeah, it's different for the power. Yep. Yeah, in fact,
So to get a recommended Pi 4, which you'd say would probably be 2 meg or 4 meg, probably would be enough.
Yes.
Yep. And then a 32 gig SD card, which you said around $15 on Amazon right now, and you need a separate power supply or whatever. What would it cost somebody that's new to the CoCo community and wants to get into this to get a fully functioning Pi 4 system?
I would say most kits, if you want to get like your basic, power supply case, maybe the little heat sinks that you can stick to the board. I don't know, what do they run at about $70-$80, something like that. Yeah.
When I bought my 3, the kit was like $69, and it came with everything you needed to get started. Power supply, HDMI cable, everything you kind of need to get to be out of the box up and running. And so, well under $100.
Okay. The reason I wanted to ask that is that there's a lot of options these days. There's like Misters, there's Matchbox CoCos from Roger Taylor, there's Pi 3s and Pi 4s. I was just wondering, I know recently I believe the Mister had a bit of a price jump, probably due to the chip shortages and stuff here, but maybe it's not. Maybe this is a much cheaper route now these days.
Mentioned in the kit, you also need the MHL HDMI connector, not a regular HDMI connector. So
the new one, the smaller one. Yeah, this isn't a track mode, by the way. I set this up a few years ago at CoCoFEST, and it can load cards, it can load disk images, and as you can see, it's actually typing the commands once you get into the emulator to load the files. It does all that for you. So it's kind of a neat thing just to have if you're at a little show and you want to just leave something running in the background, and then it'll time out. MAME's got a lot of neat features. Xor does too, where you can have it run for a certain amount of time and then exit back out again. I'm exiting out early, and then it's just going to go right down the list. Not sure why I did that little thing in the script, but it seems to work. I'll have to look at that. And I have the track modes for the CoCo 3, for the MC-10. Even the Dragon, I think I have some stuff for.
Very cool. Does anybody on the panel have any questions, or anybody in the chat for that matter, if you have any questions? I did see one from Salvador Garcia. I believe 2 amp power supply is okay. Is that correct?
For CoCo or for Raspberry Pi 4, I think it's 2.5. Oh, the other thing I'll mention too is we're talking about real CoCos. This also comes with Jim Brain's TCP Sir, which is basically a modem emulator. So again, for folks that are using real CoCos, you can either access the internet using Pi Drive Wire through Michael Fermi's DW term for the MC-10 or the color computer, or you can actually use TCP Sir with real color computers, real MC-10s, as long as they're hooked up to the Raspberry Pi. And then even Tim Lindner, who's on here, he's done some stuff where we can run disk extended color basic terminal programs, some of them, and use it with that same TCP cert through emulation or real CoCo. So it's pretty neat.
Is that emulating the Bitbanger port? Or is that emulating the RS-232 back at that point?
Well, for a real CoCo, you're not emulating the Bitbanger. What it's doing is you're connected to your color computer to the Raspberry Pi through your Bitbanger cable. So that's a real connection, nothing emulated. But then
okay, but from the Bitbanger, not from an RS-232.
Right. It's actually talking to a fake, like an emulated modem. So you can do your outbound telnets and things like that.
Yeah, it gives you the AT command set to talk to IP servers.
Okay, so you kind of like use, basically a telnet server, but it's using the AT command set to get to them type thing.
It's got a limited AT command set for doing telnet and things like that. But the nice thing with that is you can actually, if you're using disk extended color basic, there's some terminal emulator options that allow ANSI. Like Twilight Terms from Sockmaster is a big one, because a lot of people want the ANSI support.
Yeah, I believe Roger Taylor's NetMate supports that too.
It does. NetMate's a real challenge, as Tim knows, from an emulation standpoint. I've been trying to work on that for Tim for the last couple of months, and work's been real busy, so I haven't been able to spend much time on it. But I actually picked up a scope just to look at this. That's a whole nother discussion. But yeah, NetMate for emulation it's kind of working now, thanks to Tim, but there's still some things to overcome. And Roger, it's just been hard to get information out of Roger. I'm sure he's busy as well.
Okay. Any further questions? I've been kind of monitoring the chat. There's been talked about power supply requirements.
Yeah, and
which
for
you already
questions, yeah, the biggest thing, again, work's just been busy the last couple of months, but I'm watching the mailing list now more. Still on the Facebook page for the CoCoPi project. So if people do post messages there, even in Discord, I haven't been on as much, but I try to browse into those. And a lot of folks on here know how to get a hold of me as well. I try to be as responsive as I can with that. I want to make sure everybody's got a really good experience. Doesn't mean it's perfect. Again, it's one of those projects where I want people to make it their own if they find it interesting and they want to add stuff, or if they have ideas. It's just one of those things where it can be a somewhat inexpensive way to get into the hobby with the color computer if you don't have real hardware at this time, and the price is going up on everything. Not that I'm saying emulation is better than real equipment, but sometimes that's the entry point to even get into the CoCo hobby. So
I think from what I heard, that like I haven't followed it myself personally. Maybe some people like Frodo in the chat can verify or not. But I believe like the Mister actually jumped like $30 or $40 here just recently, due to chip.
Oh, that's quite a bit. Yeah, I've noticed. Well, look at the without getting too far off topic. I mean, look at the issue that for people with high-end gaming PCs that want the upscale or the video cards, the high-end video cards. I mean, you just can't get them right now, and if you can, the prices are ridiculous.
Yeah, I did have one question here from James Jones. He said, "Is CoCoPi 32-bit only? Not sure how far along 64-bit OS, formerly known as Raspbian, is, but it might give some advantage."
Yeah, there's nothing in the 64-bit support is really just not anything I've messed with. There's really nothing. There's not much there for it. I know Michael Furman was experimenting with running different distributions of Linux on the Raspberry Pi that are 64-bit. I started to go down that path to see if I could compile a version of main for it, but some of the video libraries that I needed for accelerated video were not there yet. It's still kind of early.
Okay, and Frodo just confirmed, he said the D10 Nano, which is what the Mister uses, went up by $40.
Yeah, that's quite a bit.
Hey, Curtis, since we're talking about Pi, is there a Saskatoon Pi or something?
Yeah, Saskatoon Berry Pie. Yep.
Yeah, is it good?
Very.
What kind of berries?
Saskatoon berries. It's kind of a smaller, sweeter cousin of the blueberry.
Cool. My wife asked me to ask you.
Okay. Yep. No, that's definitely a thing.
It was on a show.
Great. Now you made me hungrier.
Yeah.
Okay, another one from James Jones. Would it be possible to make a berry bootable version of CoCoPi? I don't even know what that means, but hopefully you do.
A berry bootable? I do
Yeah.
not know what that means.
Okay, I don't either. Maybe he'll clarify. And Tom Eric Gunderson says, yes, there's been substantial price jump of the D10 Nano for the Mister. It's around $170 to $190 now. And you said the Pi's around 70 complete with the SD card and everything else, right?
Yeah. Well, SD card for a kit like that, you're probably going to get a very small one, if at all. I try to tell people, you know, in the old days, I still think they provide kits with the SD cards. But if you want to get a larger card, buy the kit without the SD card and just buy the SD card stuff.
Okay. Frodo says it seems the price hike may have to do with Intel stopping their subsidizing of the D10 Nano board, which was originally meant for study purposes. So apparently the subsidy's gone, and that's part of the price hike, not just the chip shortages. And then James says Berry Boot lets you choose the OS you want to boot, like dual booting Linux and Windows.
Oh, actually, I think I did hear about this project now. I have not tried that. I'll take a look at. I did see something about that some time ago, so that's not brand new. But I have not looked into it.
Okay. Any further questions from the panel?
Sounds like something for your to-do list then.
Yeah, you know, for me, it's just been as I experiment with different things, because SD cards, like I said, have come down so much, I just power the unit off and swap an SD card. I mean, the other option now too with the Raspberry Pi 4, I haven't messed with it yet. You can run other solid state storage options besides the SD card, which are even faster and you can get higher capacities out of them. From a performance standpoint, that may be a way to go, but then again, you start to use up a little bit more desktop real estate. You know, not much more, but there is some space considerations there.
Okay. I don't see any other questions in the chat, so if nobody else in the panel is, I think we can let you go if you need to get back to work or anything.
Yeah, I'll hang out for a few extra minutes, but I appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
There we go.
Hey, I can't share yet, so I'm still waiting.
Yeah, okay. There you go. Now you can.
Now, Robert Allen Murphy's not on the call right now, is he?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, you are? Cool. Good. You're up.
He snuck in here a minute ago.
You're up then. This is your latest blog update on your game project, which I always prefer to have the original authors discuss it because they know much more how to answer the questions than I do.
You weren't even supposed to see this. Where did you find it? Anyway, yeah. So, a little while back, I got a MegaMini MPI, and after a rather depressing holiday season, I had taken a break, worked on some RPG projects, but when the MegaMini came in, I got busy messing with how to program that thing, and I've put some test code with some test instrument data and stuff like that up on the Discord, and I'm working out, because it's a very complex chip to program, from basic or assembly, I'm working out an article for the Glenside newsletter to kind of walk through what the big difference is. So the core piece of the MegaMini MPI sound is if you take the equivalent of 2 ad-libs and stick them in your CoCo at once. And programming 1 ad-lib is not so bad. Programming 2 ad-libs is not so bad either, but trying to choke all that down at once with their very sparse data sheet is really painful. So it took about a week or two to get through all of that, and took some interesting side roads down the history of FM sound synthesis and just along those lines, and got some working code up, had some folks check that out. Tom C., for example, likes to do a lot of MIDI related things, and so he's aware of some of the things that you can get away with one of these chips. So he was able to get some of that working with his MegaMini, so I was able to get some verification there. So it looks like earlier in my blog, I had posted that the MegaMini would be the sound chip that got away. I wouldn't be able to include driver for it, but well, then I made a liar out of myself. And then to scroll down a little more, while I was messing with all of that, running across some of the FM sound synthesis stuff, got me back onto how the DAC works and some of the frequency and wave synthesis stuff for that. So I ran across a little bit more of the things that I want to play with there and improved kind of some of the features I want to include in the DAC driver that I'm using. So that was kind of fun. And then I left a little challenge at the bottom of that. And then the last piece of this update is that I was slogging on through the main menu screen, the main game level screen, and building up those pieces. And that's coming along real well. I'm now working on the random number generator for placing cargo in the cargo holds. And I've got plenty of random number code to play with, but I'm looking at a variation of David Crane's old Pitfall linear feedback shift register, just for the nostalgia of having Pitfall-like code in there as well. Because it works very similar to how the Microsoft Basic Random works, without having to use the really terrible convert everything to float and convert everything back. So I'm trying to keep it kind of keep it real, but have a little fun with it as well.
So this is based on 60-bit integers then, this particular one?
Actually, 8-bit.
Okay.
There's not a huge need for a large data set of random numbers in the way that my game is working or in Pitfall. So the numbers that Pitfall chose were specifically chosen to use all 255 values of the shift register uniquely to make one wraparound world. So all 256 or 255, there's no zero there, all of those screens exist in Pitfall, and they're each individually generated forward and backward from that shift register. And that's all he needed, and he used every inch of it and got the entire world in 30-something bytes, 30 to 35.
I wonder if that's the same one they used in Rescue on Frackless, though, too, then, because that's also a 255 entry table. And I know that the maps, like the height depth maps for the actual thing, a 16 by 16 grid, is also, kind of pseudo random, but it always comes out the same. So that you can generate your levels in order. So it sounds like it's the same algorithm.
I can send you the algorithm, and there's what's called taps in these shift registers. And taps are the points where you take the current value, pull it out at that bit position, and feed it back in, right? And so these particular algorithms have a number of taps that generate different amounts of data set. And the David Crane's algorithm specifically has 16 different taps you can use. So it might be the same algorithm, just using different
taps. It sounds familiar. And to be honest, I didn't know what that was. I just tried to document when I was, disassembling it. I should share you the source I've got on Fractals. Actually, might even already be on the EOU if you want to take a look.
Yeah, and I'll send you what I got. And it's very much that. But the game that I'm converting uses a very simple, put a couple of cargoes in these spots and then blank out a couple of things to kind of try to make a random cargo arrangement each time you run the level. And there's not a whole lot to it. So 256 values. If you play enough levels through, you'll get the repeatability of it. But as long as I keep reseeding it, you'll probably just notice like a run of similar values here, a run of similar values there. And I don't expect people to play that many levels of this thing. But yeah, that's basically it. Is Back in the Saddle did a lot of sound work, and I've got some random number and other stuff coming up, and some timer stuff that goes with it, because that's what's after the random number is also the countdown timer. And then the level will start to come together.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you got back onto it, because I mean, a lot of us went through some rough times this last years that kind of slowed some of our projects down.
Yeah, well, I got caught up in some online courses that I'm taking as well, and they're really fantastically fun and interesting, and have a lot of homework with them. And so rather than drag it out for like 2 years, I kind of knocked it all out in about 3 months. But it did kind of just pretty much take over everything for a while.
Yeah. Actually, as a completely aside note too, for those who haven't heard yet, Rick Adams' wife passed away.
Oh,
yeah.
Just what is it? Yesterday, I think it was.
Yeah.
The day before.
Oh,
so
Rick.
our condolences to Rick and the family.
We are very sorry, Rick.
Yeah, he's I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he's been posting quite regularly about her condition. So she's been in pretty bad shape for the last few months, and recently she took kind of a turn. So at least all her pain is gone now. So because I know she was enduring a lot of pain.
Anyway, I didn't mean to put a downer on your article there, Mr. Murphy.
Oh, that's all right. Me being on it is downer enough. On to something fun.
Okay. Anyway, thanks for the update. I'm really looking forward to looking at some of your MegaMini MPI stuff, because I do want to start trying to design with Bill a Nitrous 9 sound system of API calls that will be common between the various sound cards, but is expandable enough to use the extra features on some of the more advanced cards like the MegaMini.
Yeah, some of that supports sound channels already, but yeah, I'll help sweep it all together.
Okay, cool. Hey, next up, Paul Shoemaker has put up a video showing his early efforts on his upcoming CocoVGA version of his Coco Squares. So, if those who do not know the history, he released the original Coco Squares for the Coco 3 back last year, and then just within the last couple of weeks, he released the Coco 1 and 2 version. So now he's kind of doing an enhanced Coco 1 and 2 version using CocoVGA in 16 color mode, which is one of Ron Delvaux's favorites. So, and he's actually added in something that the other two versions don't have. He's actually added some animations on the face cards, which we'll show you in this brief video. So you see that the king is like swinging his sword and talking, and I know he had to kind of rejigger the size because the mode that he's using is only 128 by 96. And on the Coco 3 version with 16 colors like this has, he had 320 by 225 he was using in that particular case. So he couldn't quite fit the same cards with the fancy faces as much as he could on the original, but this is quite a nice compromise from the looks of it here, where he's got basically the basic card structure like the Coco 1 and 2 version, but then he's got the kind of special aside thing for the face cards. And the animation's cool too, so you might have to revisit his Coco 3 version and add that.
It's an addictive game too.
Yeah, I saw that you actually got a royal flush, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
And you didn't even cheat and modify the code to do that?
No. I just played it and went for the royal flush. So if it gave me a king of spades, I'd pick a row that was clean and put the king of spades down, and then put things in other rows, and then if I got like a queen of spades, I'd put that in. So it's a matter of kind of going for it and then getting lucky enough to have the hidden card be one of those.
One you're needing.
Yeah, when I flipped the card, and because the card I needed was a jack of spades, and when I flipped the card and saw it was the jack of spades, I only needed one more card to fill it out then. So I just kept playing the game. It gave me the card I needed, and boom, there I was.
Yeah, I haven't even got close to that. Mind you, I haven't played it too much, but yeah, I never was good at poker anyway.
Yeah, I binged on it for like 2 days, and like halfway through the second day, I got that royal flush.
Yeah, because I think Paul even mentioned he's never had a royal flush on it himself yet.
That's why I posted kind of a it's possible / jab to Paul. Yeah, I got one.
That's your version of the Game On challenge from Buck Owens, basically.
There you go.
Okay, next up, Erico has been working on his Semi-Graphics 4, like the low-res standard 4K Coco stuff version of his karate fighting game. He did a live developers video on YouTube showing some actual test gameplay using his animations and stuff here. So I'll just skip the first part of the stream and just go straight into some of the test animation footage he did. And I should mention he's actually got a blog post up now too, which I unfortunately didn't put in here. I don't know why, I must have forgotten to put it in, but he's actually kind of got laid out. He's going to have different sections. He's got 4 basic sections or areas that he goes into, and each of those is 2 screens that actually link up side by side. I don't know if he's going to end up scrolling this over, or he's just going to flip to the next one, but basically you're traveling through this world of 4 different areas to accomplish the goal in the game. So there'll be a bit more variety, and the graphics are quite nice. They're themed differently from each other too. So, but you can see he's got like the energy bars for the players underneath working. So once you're all red, you're dead type thing. So, and this is all in basic, no ML. Plays at a fairly decent clip. It actually looks pretty decent animation wise. Definitely far better than I'd ever expect for SG4.
The animation is realistic in that it's you know exactly what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, given the limited res there, that's amazing.
It is.
When a body falls, it plops.
Yeah, and then it ends up laying on its side. You can actually tell that too.
Yeah.
I'm considering these graphics are what, like 8 pixels by 10 or something like that. That's amazing.
The old Atari should have had graphics this good.
Yeah, he's falling on his side. You can see his one leg tucked in type thing. It's amazing how much the human mind can extrapolate that into higher res than it really is.
Yeah. That's what I was just thinking.
And as we mentioned last week, he actually got featured on a retro magazine in Brazil. On the cover, actually, is one of the cover stories. Not the main one, but one of the cover stories for this game in progress. So, kudos to him.
That should keep his interest going, right?
Yeah. Next up, I mentioned earlier when I was talking to John, so actually I'm kind of remembering this. Cuthbert Dragon, who had done all these ones, and he's using real hardware, real dragons filmed on real TVs. So you get to see some of the sun glare from his blinds behind him and stuff here too. But he kind of cleans up his page once every couple months. For some reason, he just goes and wipes all his videos out, and then he redoes them again, and then he wipes them out again, and then he redoes them again. And sometimes he was doing themes where he's doing pairs of games that are kind of related to each other. Now he seems to be back to the single. So he's got a bunch of them up he's put up here in the last week that you can see here, including a few that I had not seen before, which is kind of cool because he seems to have some of the more obscure ones. Now, there's one in specific I wanted to show John because it was the semi-graphics version of Cuthbert, since that was our game from this last week with Pyramix, called Pogo Joe. So I thought I'd show a little bit of that for people who have not seen it. And this is one that I mentioned has different layouts. Once you go between screens, the layout of the cubes goes completely differently. So it's not just a fixed triangle all the time. And you notice there's a lot of like one-way dead ends and stuff too, which gets very dangerous. I sure hope they don't have a death square.
So the white element is the player?
Yeah, I believe so.
Green.
Oh, green? Okay, yeah. I haven't actually played this yet. I've just seen videos of it. So one of these days when I get that far in my games page, I'll have to try it out. But one of the better looking semi-graphics 24 arcade ports, I think.
And it's got music, sort of.
Yeah, a little bit of decent sound. I mean, the basic sound when you're playing is pretty simple, but the animations are pretty good. I mean, they're obviously different. You couldn't do a Cuthbert style pointy nose, etc. on semi-graphics because your pixels are so wide, but using the spring motive actually works pretty good.
Yeah. And the little cubes come out well in semi-graphic in that mode.
Yeah. Let's fast forward to another one. You can see some of the more complicated ones. I can't remember how many screens it has. I think it's mentioned in the World of Dragon archive, but it's quite a few. Anyway, really good game. Anyway, some of the ones I'd not seen before that were new to me, and there's 3 in particular I just wanted to show quickly here. And he's added some other ones just this morning, so I haven't even looked at them all. North Sea Action is actually, I'm trying to remember the name of the original game because this is a game that's been on like the C64 and a bunch of others. It's also got an arcade equivalent. But I think we have shown that particular one before. So I'll skip on to some of these other ones here. So Guardian Angel, this is one I'd not seen before. Which is kind of a scramblish style.
Lovely side scroller. Kind of have
I've seen at least
of Polaris.
Yeah. There's at least 3 scramble games on the Dragon that never came out on the CoCo that I know of. One is another Semi-Graphics 24 one. And then one's a P Mode 3 like this, and then this one, which is a new version I hadn't seen before. But this has a few little extra aliens that come after you that you don't normally see. And you got a refueling thing there. That's different than Scramble. Normally you shoot the fuel pod. There you have to actually go on down and get your fuel.
Oh, a la like Gravatar.
Yeah. So it's a nice combo of a couple of arcade games kind of mixed into one. So it's a pretty unique experience.
Nice sound effects.
Yeah. No, it looks like a good game. And like I said, I haven't seen that one. There's a bunch. Like there's so many games I haven't got in my archive yet. It's just insane. And people keep making new ones, and I'm never catching up.
Nick.
Especially Nick.
Sorry. I think there was another. Go back to that list there. What's Blockhead? Is that another Cuba game?
Yeah, that's a CoCo 1 and 2 game. It's normally artifacted colors, but that's by computer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I noticed that.
Then Mission Attack, I don't think we've seen before, which is kind of a Xevious style. A bit simpler, though. It's kind of choppy, but...
At least Nick named his new game starting with a Z, so you've got some time.
Yeah, that's right. Because I'm roughly doing alphabetical order. Well, I kept having to keep backtrack. In fact, there'll be one coming up here I'll be demoing on the show here within the next few weeks that once I get it up on the page, I'll put it up. It's a bit of a surprise. There's a bit of a strange history behind it. And it's a recent one. And it's not by Nick. Like I said, this is a bit of a simpler one, and the graphics are a bit coarser. It's not smooth, but still, it's a new Xevious style clone where you shoot ships and stuff that I've never seen before. And then the last one that I wanted to show was Laser Run. This one's in BASIC, I believe, so it kind of reminds me of the Illustrated Memory Banks game that was quite similar. I'm trying to remember the name of the stupid thing. By Fred Skirbo, I believe. And apparently it's not going to load, so maybe I won't show you. Oh, there we go.
Trench Run.
Yeah. Advanced Star Trench Warfare. That was the name of the P Mode 4 artifact one that Rainbow had a mini version of it published in the August 82 edition, I think. And then they actually, Illustrated Memory Bank sold it as a commercial game in the very early days of the CoCo when you could still get away with selling basic games other than adventures. But it shows you that you can do a fairly decent little arcadey game in basic, even in pseudo 3D. And I believe here he's using a lower res mode so that he can page flip 4 animation sequences, so it makes the trench look smoother than just blinking between 2.
You can sort of see Get Put being used for the spaceship.
Yeah.
Use the Force, Luke. Use the Force.
No bigger than a Womp Rat.
Oh, I thought he said farce. Oh, that's what I've been doing all these years.
But the Womp Rats don't shoot back.
So anyway, like I said, there's a ton of games he's covered here. Some of these are CoCo ports, usually the P Mode 3 because they didn't have artifacting. Quite a few semi-graphics games like Star Swoop, which we've shown before, Star Defense, Cop to Snatch, which is a scramble clone in semi-graphics 24, and then some, the CoCo ones like Ghost Attack, which is basically Pack Attack renamed for the Dragon market. But quite a few interesting ones in there. And like I said, I don't know how long these last. So if you want to check them out, check out some uniquely Dragon games. Go do it quick before he wipes the page out again. Next up, this is a little bit of a game update from Jim Gerrie for his MC-10 Mahjong game, which I, for some reason, typed MC-19 in my notes. Don't ask me why I did that. But basically what he's done here is he's changed the sound a little bit, and he's actually got a bit of a question for people that are trying the game out here to see if this is a good idea or not. So he's done a slight tweak. It now beeps when you select and then when you match. That's fine. That just makes it a bit of an audio cue that you've clicked on something. But he also has the two sounds now are on a continuous rising tone based on the number of tiles. He's not sure if that's a good thing to help raise tension or if it's just annoying. So he's asking for some feedback on the comments on the YouTube there if you want to tell him if he should leave the tones consistent or should they keep going up in pitch as you're pulling tiles off. So I'll play a little bit just to kind of hear. It's very brief sound, but I'm not sure if this is a compiled version or the basic version off the top of my head. Okay, where is it? Select something here. Oh, there you go. So you can hear that the tone went up slightly as you selected the next tile. And basically it just keeps increasing in frequency as you go through. So he's wondering, should it be a consistent thing where it's just a single beep of a fixed tone every time you select and every time you take a pair off? Or does it add to the tension of the game at all that he's going up in pitch? So if you have any feedback, thoughts on that, please give him a comment on his YouTube page. Next up, Brendan Donahe has received his copy of Sheldon McDonald's, and we've covered his Treasure Island Defense here. He's actually selling the Game Master cartridge version of it, and it's a CocoVGA enhanced game. So this is, as Brendan mentions, for me, this is very satisfying set of first all-in-one package. The first ROM pack ever to take advantage of the CocoVGA. The first complete game to take advantage of the CocoVGA VG6 16 color mode. And then also the first CoCo cartridge game using the GMC for background music. There was another one by who's doing the Cersei's Island. I'm trying to remember it's not Kieran, it's shoot.
Steve Bamford.
Right, Bamford, right. Some guy who did Flagenberg, I believe. So he's been working on one, but it's not ready yet. So, but I thought the design of the cartridge is quite cool. He's even got a carrying case that's included with the 3D printed here on the right-hand side, you can see here, and then the cartridge slides into that. So instead of having a cardboard box, you actually have a solid plastic case, which is kind of cool. And then he's done quite a unique case design here with all the lines and grip parts here, and then of course the stickers and stuff on it. So it's not a standard Tandy cartridge. We've had a few unique cartridge designs in the past. One that strikes me off the top of my head is John Strong's Bomb Threat, which is kind of a minefield style game, where you actually, the little thumb grips on the sides to pull the cartridge out, because Tandy just had a little indentation if they had anything at all. But he actually made them shaped like little bombs, to kind of fit the theme of the game. And this one actually has quite a radically different design. And so that's basically a picture of what you get. You get the cartridge case holder, you get the cartridge itself, you get the little color manual. And there's a screenshot of the game in action running CocoVGA on a Coco 1. It's 128 by 96 16 color graphics. It has sound effects and music and stuff in the background based on the GMC. He's got a PSG version in the works too, which I think is already working. I just don't know if he's selling that yet.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, he is starting to sell the PSG version.
Okay, cool.
It is a lot of fun.
And by the way, that little card's laminated and it fits in the program pack holder.
Yeah, the instruction sheet is dual-sided laminated.
It's also for young eyes.
Yeah.
Bold print, is that what we're talking about here?
No, we're talking about tiny print. But if you take a picture of it, you can look at it really easy.
Yeah, I've just got the outside here, so I can't see that. But no, it's really cool. We're seeing, we've seen a resurgence of cartridges ever since John Linville kind of came up with getting the plastic molded ones, and then some other people have also done the 3D printed ones in the past too. So we've seen a resurgence of cases for games and stuff being a collector's item versus just getting a digital download or a disc version or something like that. And it's nice seeing some original designs coming here that are going way above and beyond what was on any of the standard Tandy ones. And also now adding the extra hardware like sound cards, et cetera, so you can actually enhance the game far beyond what you would have done on the Coco anyway, unless you added a multi-pack and a sound speech pack, which are pretty rare items these days. So most people can't get that. And of course, these sound chips are set up in such a way that if you do happen to have a multi-pack, one of Ed's or one of the commercial ones from days gone by, you can actually have those cards in the multi-pack and other games from disc or cassette theoretically can access them and actually generate the sound through them too. So, I mean, it's actually a hardware enhancement card as well as game.
It works.
Sorry, what was that?
It's not theoretical. It does work. You can use them as sound cards as long as you don't boot from that slot.
Cool. So once we get some Nitrous 9 drivers or some just basic drivers that people can run in their own basic programs and stuff, you could start, jamming this out. All you have to do is buy one of these games. And it's really cool to see the shipping. And I didn't realize you had a little cartridge carrying plastic case too to hold the cartridge itself. That was a surprise to me. Next up, Tim Lindner here, who's actually on the show today, did something I very rarely see him do, which is play games. So and maybe Tim, since you're here, you can explain what prompted this. You did Arkanoid, both the CoCo 3 version and the CoCo 1 and 2 version videos.
Well, it's really simple. I was testing the game out in MAME, and it had a low noise floor where it just you can almost call it clicking. And for a couple hours there, I thought it was a bug in MAME. But then I tried it on a real computer, and there it was.
Yeah, that's that kind of background noise that he had.
Yeah, the background noise.
Is that the 1-bit sound he did?
No, it's done through the DAC, and it's on purpose. And the first time I heard Steve do this is on Popcorn.
Yeah, right.
And I don't know why it's here. I think the game would be better if it didn't have it. But as you can see, there's a lot of noise with firing the cannon.
Yeah, you don't really notice this much in here. Popcorn, you definitely do.
Yeah. So I posted these just to remind myself of what this game sounds like.
Now, if I remember correctly, MAME and some of the emulators did play the background ticking sound way too loud compared to the regular sound. I think that's been fixed now.
Yeah, I think what MAME is doing these days is really accurate.
And of course, then the CoCo 1 and 2 version has the same thing. So I'll just fast forward a little bit.
Yeah, it was really nice that you got 2 versions of this game on cartridge.
Yeah, I was surprised that wasn't done more often. There's a few games that did it. Sokobon did it. Arkanoid did it. Tetris did it. I don't think there was any others. Pathfinders.
We should also mention that it was just recently discovered that the CoCo 3 Gimme X causes a problem with Arkanoid. The CoCo 3 version of Arkanoid, it plays the CoCo 2 version because of the probe routine is returning the wrong value.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was trying to read and write palette registers to figure out if he had a CoCo 3 or not. So that was a bit of an odd one. I mean, I think there's a bit more reliable and easier ways to tell if you have a CoCo 3 or not.
It worked at the time.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it sounds like Ed's not going to be able to fix that in the Gimme X, so that's just going to be a thing. If you have the real cartridge, you'll be stuck on the CoCo 1 and 2 version on the Gimme X.
Yeah, I downloaded the disc version of this game, and it gives you a prompt on which one you want to run, 1 or 3.
Okay, so it does run properly on the Gimme X if you use the disc version. Then.
I am going to assume yes.
Okay.
I do not have a Gimme X yet.
I know he's been shipping quite a few. There's quite a few out in the wild now besides us original year ago beta testers for it. So.
Yep.
Next up, raw footage of Poltergeist for the TRS-80 color computer. Now this is a channel I'd never heard of before, though it's apparently fairly popular because it has over 18,000 subscribers, and it's called Watercooler Films. And they have a podcast of their own, which is basically called BMF, which stands for Bad Movie Fiends. And basically they try to hunt down, crappy movies or movies that are a bit more or less known. And then they've got some side podcasts that they also do that seem to cover like video games related to these movies, or there's some other sub-subjects basically, but it's based on around that main theme of movies and doing reviews of them. And the subdivision of it that this one is called Take Me to Your Leaderboard, which I thought was a kind of a cool name. And basically it's just raw footage of playing Poltergeist itself. So I won't play that because we've seen Poltergeist played like dozens of times on the channel already. But it's kind of an interesting concept. Speaking of that rattling noise in the background, it's kind of an interesting concept that they've got here, that they're actually doing a movie-based podcast for reviewing movies, kind of like Mystery Science Theater 3000 type thing. but they've got this little side thing that if there's any video games based in movies, they actually will throw that in as part of the podcast. That's kind of an interesting approach. They're not a video game podcast per se. They're a movie podcast. They happen to be incorporating the video game side of things. So it's a pretty interesting one. I have never watched any of their episodes. I just found that this morning, so I haven't had a chance to even try to see if I've seen anything. I don't know if the Poltergeist episode's even up yet. I haven't gone through their list of all their different movies that they've covered so far. They're 100 plus episodes in. But I did put some links in the notes there, which Mark will post as well, for the link to their podcast page. And they also have a Patreon page that you can get some extra features if you give them a few bucks a month, I think, 5 tiers, whatever. So if you're interested in movies as well as video games, that might be a podcast for you to try. And I'd never heard of it before and just happened to find it because it had Poltergeist there. And the last one here is their main one, Bad Movie Fiends. So this is kind of some examples here. It's also available on iTunes, etc. here too. You can see some of the different, like episode 177 of the BMF Cast Extra. This is episode 38 of the Variety Hour. So they've got a bunch of different sub podcasts based on the same things there. And I did take a quick look, and I don't think I saw anything of Poltergeist yet. So I'm assuming that footage is for an upcoming episode. So I'll keep an eye out for it, and then we'll see what that's all about. But like I said, if you're into movies and you're into video games and you're into video games based on movies, it might be a good podcast to check out. And that's all I had for the Game On News.
Yay!
Is Mark around or?
Yeah, I'm up.
Yeah, can you wake up Nick while you're at it too, or
Newsy.
So do we want to go straight into the news, or did you want a commercial break first? What do you want to do?
It's been about an hour since the last commercial break, so.
And now this message.
Hi, it's Chris Boyle, part of the CoCoTALK crew of people.
Hey everybody, this is Bill Noble, co-author of Nitrous 9. You are listening to CoCoTALK Live, the leading live Coco talk show.
G'day mates, this is Nick Marionettes, author of such colour computer titles as Donut Disaster, Rupert Rhymes, and Rockstar Pilot. And I am here today to tell you about the world's most fabulous operating system, OS 9. OS 9 and its current incarnation Nitrous 9 is the most advanced operating system ever created. And what makes it so good? Ease of use. I find OS 9 so incredibly intuitive that I haven't once cracked open the user manual. And yet I've been able to create such incredible games faster than the time it takes to sing Waltzing Matilda. Using OS 9, I expect my next game, Funstar, will be done this weekend and distributed exclusively on ROM cartridge. OS 9 forever.
Any resemblance to actual events to persons living or dead is purely coincidental.
Hi, this is Max Jackson live from CoCoFEST. And you listen to The Real Game, Steve's Show.
We're traveling through a dimension both of sound and ideas. We're at a place where the mind can comprehend and devise a solar radio, a wireless transmitter, measure time and light. 65 electronic projects brought to reality with this science fair kit. Astonishing? Perhaps. But you can find it for Christmas for $17.95 in a place that's known as Radio Shack.
Radios, stereos, recorders, everything in sound.
A whole new approach. Faster than ever. A window to a world of possibilities. Clear your expectations. Clear your hesitation. Just hit clear.
Download EOU today at lcurtisboyle.com.
Hi, this is Sean Wheatley, and you're listening to CoCoTALK with the original gamer, Stevie Stroke.
From around the world, what you need to know. Get caught up on News with L. Curtis Boyle.
And now a Muppet News Flash.
All right. Take it away, Curtis.
Shall do. I'll make a quick mention that's not in my news notes here, because Boat did tell me about it, and I forgot to throw it in there because I was kind of rushed this morning. But on that weekly podcast that him and RMC guy Neil from the UK do called This Week in Retro, one of the discussion topics they had recently on the latest episode is on the fact that the Mister actually has some commercial cores as well as the freebie ones. Like there's a free CoCo 1 and 2 core, for example, that Dave Shadoff in our Discord actually is one of the people that's involved with that. But they were going through like what are some of the ones that are you might have to pay a few bucks to help the developer along type thing that are worth it. And Boat had mentioned specifically that Roger Taylor's CoCo 3 core was one of the ones that he deemed as worth it, because basically if you join his thing for 1 month for $5, you can get the core. So it's a nice cheap way to get a CoCo 3 core on your Mister that's quite compatible. So I wanted to mention that first, or forgot. Again. Okay, so first up, Henry Rietveld put up a video showing his CoCo 3 surfing the web through Action Retro's FrogFind search engine, which is made for vintage computers. And we kind of there's been a lot of discussion about this because they had a lot of old Macs and older Amigas and stuff like that running really old browsers. Now the modern web has been so changed and has got so much advanced features on it that trying to use an old browser on it pretty well just doesn't work. You can't do anything. So the way FrogFind works is that it actually will read the page itself onto its own little server and then parse out all the crap and then basically just present the raw text basically. So it strips ads. Like if you want to do really fast news, this is actually quite a nice way to do it. And the nice thing is that because it strips it down to the text level, you can now log into it using a Lynx browser, from any Unix or Linux system, and then you can use a VT100 compatible terminal program to log into Lynx from the CoCo, and that's kind of what Henry did here. So he's showing this. I think he's using vTerm, which is Tim Cancel's VT100 emulator that he had commercially available back in the late '80s. There's other ones too that are also worked by KBCom, Buddy Kuntz in iOS 9, Nitrous 9, and I think some of the ANSI ones are fairly close, so you might be able to use like a NetMate or a Twilight Terminal or something like that as well. But anyway, here's actually just doing some a little sample of actually logging into the web, today's web, using a CoCo 3 via that engine. So using FrogFind, the search engine for vintage computers. Now, just to be clear, the CoCo itself is not processing the HTML pages itself. It's just processing just the text that's being sent to it with VT100 control codes for doing like inverse video and moving the cursor around and drawing the text itself type thing. But it actually lets you tap through to links and stuff and bring up pages. I've seen it running on Wikipedia and stuff if you want to look up text information right from your CoCo itself. It'd be a perfect companion piece, I guess, for the Wi-Fi and Ethernet based or even DriveWire based for that matter, links to getting onto the net directly from the CoCo itself.
So if you viewed your game pages through it yet?
Way back in the day when I first was doing it, because I actually was using links in my CoCo, I actually went on my game pages and I actually used to use KBCom to view them through links like this. And this is what it looks like, basically pretty close. And that one I actually had the advantage too, because I could actually tell it to download a graphic link. And as long as I made them GIFs, I could go to another window, run the view utility or GIF OS 9 or any of these other GIF viewing utilities, and I could actually view the picture in a different window. Eventually, I wanted to get that all amalgamated into one and have it scale and stuff like that too, which would be slow. And it also required a ton of disk space, so I never really got too far with it. Now that the SDC is a standard, and we know we have like 128 meg on a Nitrous 9 partition pretty well by default if you have EOU, I might consider going back and revisiting that here and using something like this, actually come up with a very primitive graphic thing as long as it's just simple GIFs. So we'll have to see. But yeah, you definitely could. Next up, this is going to be a twofer, basically. So the first part here, Simon Jonassen, who showed us a little bit of his trick based on what Karen had done earlier, too, of fooling the VDG line counter by switching modes in the horizontal border so that you can actually create the illusion of smooth scrolling on a VDG screen. Because when you switch to a graphics screen, it resets the counter. Whereas the VDG is kind of keeping track of how many scan lines down it's going. So it always displays the same pieces of the characters in the same spot on the screen every time within a character cell vertically. So this is a little demo that he did here, kind of showing it. Still a little bit of finessing he has to do yet, but you can kind of see it's definitely smooth scrolling. A little bit of glitching at the top. So John Laury, and you can comment on this too, he decided to be a smart ass and he came on and said, yeah, I can do that in the CoCo 3 easily enough too, because that's of course a built-in feature on the Gimme. So he called it boing, 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 boing. And if I remember correctly, you're just using the LPR setting of how many scan lines per character, right? You're just increasing, decreasing.
Yeah, and when it pushes the screen up, it draws the memory below it into view. So I had to poke a bunch of spaces in there so that you didn't see the inverse at symbols that were, because at first when I ran it, you could see the memory below it.
Yeah, you had to clear
whatever
first,
garbage was there. So yeah, so you poke a bunch of 96s in there. Believe it or oddly enough, not 32, which is a space ASCII for space. If you do that, it comes out inverted. So you have to do 96 to get.
Yeah, even the VDGs kind of like that too. Some of the stuff you poke in is not quite what you're expecting. It's not straight ASCII.
Right.
So this was not a machine language program though, right? This is just basic.
No, I put the listing there. Ron wanted to see the listing, and I threw up the listing. It's just a poke to the scroll register.
Yeah, it's definitely a neat effect, and it's definitely easier to do on a CoCo 3 than it is on a CoCo 1 and 2. That requires some pretty...
Oh yeah, no, definitely Simon's the master when it comes to I'm just playing around.
Yeah, and we showed last week when Kieran did that. Well, he actually did it quite a while ago, but he re-recorded it on real hardware, even showing composite colors now. But he actually showed it. You were running in the graphics mode doing that too, where he's actually doing the simulated smooth scrolling by just changing, the start positions and stuff too. And he actually had sprites flying across the screen at the same time too, doing a quote unquote hardware scroll on a CoCo 1 and 2. So that looks like another bit of untapped potential, either for demos or for some games.
Mm-hmm.
Tricks. They're all tricks.
Exactly. All programming's tricks. Okay, next up we have, for any UK or European listeners that have managed to pick up a CoCo 3 with only 120K over the years, it's quite expensive to ship, and we mentioned this last week, it's quite expensive to ship a 512 or higher RAM upgrade for the CoCo 3 from the States to Europe. Like, it's more than the cost of the board by quite a large margin in most cases. So Kieran had taken it upon himself because he just got a CoCo 3, I think from Bryza, a PAL one, so he can run it properly in England. And he wanted to upgrade to 512K. So he kind of prototyped designed a board, and then he got I think 5 boards in his prototypes. And much to his surprise, the first one worked. So he has his machines upgraded, it's tested, it's running 512K programs just fine. But now he's got these extra boards he thought he would be using to tweak the design type thing. And now he decided, well, since I got one and I needed one, maybe there's a few other people in Europe that have gotten, 128K CoCo 3s over the years of the PAL variety, or maybe even NTSC for that matter, and want to get it without having to pay exorbitant shipping costs, plus all the delays we're experiencing with overseas shipping these days. So he's actually got his few other prototypes for sale, 2 at this current time. Base price is £17.50, and the shipping will vary a little bit. So this is the total price with shipping, including the board itself, and it varies if you're doing first class, second class, if you want it tracked, you need a signature required, etc. But it's definitely a lot cheaper. It would cost that much just to ship a board from the States, if not more, plus the board itself. So this would literally be about half the cost of what you'd have to pay to ship like a Triad Plus, or if there's any Boomerang E2 still kicking around, or even some of Ed Snider's new 2 and 8 meg boards. So I didn't even realize he had this for sale page here. I don't know how I missed it, but he's actually selling his dungeons for the Dragon and Tandy CoCo here with a custom cassette, and the cassette what do you call it, the folded part inside there with the directions and nice color cover and stuff on it too. So
the J card.
Yes, that's it. Thank you. I should know that. We used to make them at work
years ago. They're cool.
Yeah, I just didn't realize he actually had a sale page on his site, because he's got all those extra stuff and other things here too, plus that smooth scrolling demo. Sorry. So I didn't even know I had that, but that's kind of neat. He's got that. I can now refer people to it if they want to order dungeons or anything else that he's got going. This was an interesting one. This is a bit of history that I faintly remember reading about this way back, and it might have been Byte or Creative Computing or one of the general magazines we used to get at school from way early. This is from 1981. So the SS50 bus, and some of you people on the panel probably know it a lot better than I do, but that was a bus system that was fairly standard in a lot of the earlier 8-bit machines, especially CPM machines, et cetera, from the late 70s, I'm guessing from about 75 to maybe 83 or something like that.
Well, wasn't the S100 bus CPM orientated?
Yes.
Yeah, this is the cut down version of the S100, actually.
Sort of suited for the 6809, right?
Yep, smaller computers that don't have a crap load of RAM, and I remember lusting after this at one point.
Yeah, because I mean, it was a standard bus for hooking various types of hardware, including RAM and stuff, as they mentioned on the ad here. But if you think back into the time this was out, which was in 81, which is within 6 to 8 months of when the CoCo One was released, Tandy was only selling machines of 4 and 16K and extended basic, and that's it. There was no disk drives. There wouldn't be disk drives for another year. So this actually allowed you to upgrade memory up to 48K. This allowed you to add an 80 column card, composite video out, disk drives, RAM, and basically anything else that would be on standard buses. Do you guys know what other machines would have used the SS50 bus back in the day?
Well, Southwest Technical Products might have used it.
Yeah, Smoke Signal, I think, too.
Well, Don French said at the first Tandy assembly that he wanted the Model 1 to use the S100, but Tandy wanted to go with their own proprietary thing. But he had already had it worked out to for the Model 1 to have the S100 bus interface.
I really don't remember the details, but I think S100 wasn't that 32-bit addressing, and the S50 was 16-bit.
I have no idea.
I think that's what was going on.
I remember reading in the early 68 Micro magazine that when the rumors were circulating that Tandy was working on a 6809 computer, some people thought it would be an S50 bus system.
Oh, okay. So that's a pretty interesting bit of history, because this is what the CoCo could have gone in this direction, other than what Tandy did. And at this point, there was no multi-pack interface or anything else. They did have a 7-slot thing you could plug into this to plug in 7 additional cards. And like I said, you could do RAM, RS-232, video, all kinds of things. So it basically was, the SS50 version of a multi-pack. And of course, this is back when the CoCo was very primitive, 416K RAM, extended basic, no disk drive, just cassette. So this would have been pretty cool, especially for the serious hobbyists, because there was quite a few people, and I have read some of the older 68 microjournal stuff.
The original color computers were 4 and 16K because the video terminals were 4 and 16K. They were only 4 or 16K. The terminals that the color computer were based on, essentially.
Yeah,
the video text.
Yeah, the terminal came first, and then Tandy said, we'd like to take this, in another direction and sell our own terminal. And AgVision was like, sure, fine, whatever. We just need a cheap terminal to sell to our customers. Whatever you do with it is fine. So Tandy saw that they could, easily modify it to make it into a computer, a general purpose computer, because basically the terminal was
It's a ROM program. Basically, that was instead of extended basic ROM, it had the Videotech software.
Exactly. So that's why the first systems were 4 or 16K, because the terminals were available in 8-page or 32-page. It could remember 8 pages or 32 pages, depending on how much memory you had. There was a cheaper version.
Each screen was 512 bytes.
Right. Exactly.
I do remember, like in the earlier days of the CoCo One, when I was reading about it in Creative Computing and Byte, though, that they were mentioning, there was a lot of alternative, floppy drive systems that came out. There's 2 or 3 at least competing ones before Tandy's came out. Of course, since Tandy was selling in 6,000 stores, that obviously took over, and they definitely weren't the best of the bunch. So it definitely shows that this could have been a direction that it went if Tandy had just not designed their own things off the bat. Kind of gone their own route,
or took too long to bring him to market.
Well, they
just
basically
about
took-
did with the floppy drive, because I mean, floppy drives have been out from other people for a year at least before Tandy's came out. Not just SS50 bus, which had their own too, but just native to the CoCo.
Apple II drives were out in 78, so yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember they were selling 40-track double-sided drive support built in. Now this is usually using Flex or something like that, not so much, you know, basic, but anyway, it's a bit of interesting CoCo history that a lot of people I don't think are aware of. I'd totally forgotten about this, to be honest, myself, and then it kind of brought back memories because I had seen this ad before, but back in '81, you know, back in the day.
I never saw this until just now.
Yeah, well, this never appeared in any of the CoCo magazines because the CoCo magazines had just barely started as 2-page newsletters at this point.
Yeah.
Next up, Riz Thomas on Facebook. He did a composite upgrade to his CoCo tube based on Alan of AC's 8-Bit Zone's video design that we've highlighted a few months back. And he actually took some before and after pictures to show the improvement. So here's the original RF modulator on the left top and the modified for composite AV out on the left bottom. And then he's got the original RF out picture signal and then the one on the bottom. So you can see it's definitely a lot more readable. I can also see his phase is opposite between the two here too. So his red blue is going to be reversed for a game. And then you can see the ones here with both color sets just to show the different color burst phase settings there. But it's definitely clearer. I mean, you can see that on the left ones, the word high score and the numbers are a little bit fuzzy. It's a lot crisper and clearer on the right. So definitely made a big improvement. So kudos to Riz for actually installing it and kudos to AC for releasing the design.
We got you.
Is there any buzzing noise in the background on that one? No.
Nope, that one's nice and clear.
Yeah. Well, it does have that did sound, but that's a bit different again. Next up, Catherine Trudel, or Trudel, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, so my apologies to Catherine if I did that wrong. But she released a couple of unboxing videos, or unboxing photos, I should say here, for some vintage Tandy equipment for the CoCo. So the first one I'll be showing here is the DMP 105 dot matrix printer. And as Ron Klein and others have mentioned, there's been a lot of interest in real printers again lately. You can see what the original price was too. How much are inkjets these days? $50 for full color.
Yeah.
This one actually still has a styrofoam packing, even has the dust cover thrown in. And it's still white instead of some weird yellowish plastic.
Was
Prices
it new
are
in
subsidized
box
by
or?
the ink, though?
What was that, Mark?
Oh, the printers or prices are subsidized by the ink. You know, you sell.
Yeah, nowadays they are.
laser
Yeah.
and- right, and make it up on the blades.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm wondering if this had never been seen the light of day because that is white.
Yeah, that's
not
what I was
yellow
thinking,
in the slightest.
was it new in box. Yeah. Where would a DMP hide for 40 years?
In that box, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
Oh, and a new tractor feed too.
Yeah, so that was cool. And then she followed that up.
We used to have one of those.
With a multi-pack. Now, this is a box. I don't remember seeing too many with all these different languages thrown on it. So this must be an Intertan one, I'm guessing. Unless
What
one of you
is-
guys that lives in the States, did you guys have like French and Spanish and German and
No.
English?
Oh, no.
No.
English. That's it.
Because even the Canadian ones, we had English and French. That was it. We did not have multi-language. This might be a European one for all I know.
Right. And they probably had to, didn't they have that law where you had to have French on everything in Quebec?
We still do have that law. Because we are officially a bilingual country.
Including the graffiti.
Yeah.
Canon each
All
hand.
the painted trains, on the side that we have English and French for. No, I'm just kidding.
It's interesting that the English is the American spelling, but then all the others look.
Then they
Yeah,
switch.
with the OR versus the couleur
Yeah,
or clear or
that's funny.
farb computer. Does that mean color? I'm not sure what the heck that is. I do like it. It's a multi-pack schnitzel, though. That makes me hungry. But this one's even got the manual still in the plastic. Styrofoam mounts.
Yeah.
And it's one of the newer ones, the smaller, slimmer ones that they did later on.
3124s, I think. I wonder if it's
Yeah, probably
A
not the
version.
rare A model, which actually had the Coco 3 upgrade pre-done by Tandy. That was pretty. You had to be special to find those.
Right.
And you can see how much whiter it is in the Coco 3.
Yeah.
The Coco
Must have
3 is
stored it
actually
in
not in bad shape.
nitrogen.
Yeah, maybe frozen nitrogen. And loaded it right up. And of course, she's got one game in there, Clowns and Balloons, but she has logo, so she has one language there, Ed Tasm for machine language, and then a Coco STC. So
Already out of slots.
yeah, David Ladd's right. We need a 16-slot MPI. So I don't know if Dave's still on the call there. I was hoping you'd pipe up on that one.
And the ability to plug another 16 slot into the 16th slot of the first one.
The
See, the
lad
SS
expander.
So what was that?
The lad expander.
Yeah.
There you go.
But you can see where the SS50 bus was going back in 81. They already had 7 slots right out the hop. You know, they were prepared for this.
The Apple IIs had 7 slots plus their language card, so that's precedence.
Yeah, and they actually had a built-in command in BASIC to boot a port, like PR number and then the port number you wanted to drive with. I think floppy drive was usually 6, wasn't it?
Yeah, usually in 6, but it could be other places too.
If only they had a CPU with enough horsepower to use them.
Hey, they made a 6809 card. I have a clone of one.
Yeah, I know it's 9 too. Next up, we have 8-Bits in the Basement, our Irish friend living in France, I believe. So he hasn't done a hardware video in a while here, so this was kind of cool. So he took Mark J. Blair's CoCo 1, 2, 3 cartridge PCB, which is a way to basically just get this little card, you install the ROMs and stuff on it. So we decided to make a little video here showing PCB, how the pieces work. In fact, it's got a couple different sizes of ROMs. You can put the sockets on if you want a 24, 28 pin, etc. And then he does some, explanation of how it works, how the auto start pin works, which I know Nick Marotta has had tremendous fun with lately, and Mr. Dave, I believe, as well. And then he goes installing a few specific things on it, including like some game cartridges to show how it works with games. So he's got Firefall, for example. I think he did 1 or 2 others. And then he goes into putting it in HDB DOS with DriveWire support, so we actually can load in stuff from directly from there. And then he goes a step further because he's not done yet, and he actually puts in that cartridge built into the CoCo itself, freeing up the cartridge port itself for any other cards. So the whole thing fits inside the case. And he actually, since he has HDB DOS there, he can actually like load stuff off DriveWire directly. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Sloopy's wireless version of it here, where you don't need a multi-pack or anything else here to load stuff off DriveWire, but you still have room to add in a floppy drive and STC or whatever else you want to too. So it's a fairly interesting hardware project there. Kind of going a little bit above and beyond. Of course, you're seeing PAL colors for Sailor Man. So it's a pretty cool video. I would definitely recommend, especially you hardware types there, to go make some comments on his video, because I mean most of the stuff's way over my head. But it's a very well done, internal case mod here that leaves your slot free, but gives you the HDB DOS and DriveWire access built right into the CoCo itself. Next up, and Rocky Hill, the guy who put the video up we saw last week and had a huge discussion on creating a duplicate CoCo 2 motherboard, where you can just put the parts in, not swap, but put the parts in and get it up and running if you have a cracked circuit board or whatever. And he's been going through and testing it. Now, he did some testing we showed last week, and he did 2 separate little videos here to test out a couple other peripherals. So the first one he already did was to test the cassette board. Now, he did have some problems with IOWares. He's not sure if this is related to his circuitry, though I don't think so. I think it's more how he created the WAV file that's playing across. And he was trying to load Bird Attack by Tom Mix, and he took a couple tries, and it kept IOWaring near the end of it. But it looks like he got enough of it loaded in. It actually did run. Now, he is having problems where he's not getting the color burst. He's not getting the artifact colors going. And I know his video signal's been a bit crotchety looking, from the start here on the RF. So he's got a few bits he's got to try to figure out there. But basically, I mean, the port itself works. He also used this as an opportunity to try the joystick port, because the game works with joystick. And that works. He can fire, move left, right, and everything else works fine. So that part of his circuitry is fine as well. And then he did a second little video here to show testing the serial port, the bitbanger. So he goes through a bit of an explanation of how it's supposed to work and blah blah blah. And then he ends up using LList, which is a list to a serial printer built into BASIC itself, to send it over to the PC, you can monitor it in the terminal program, setting up for the same parameters the printer defaults to, which I think was 1 8-bit word length, 1 or 2 stop bits, I can't remember, no parity, 600 baud. Does the L list on the CoCo itself here, which then should send it to the serial printer. And then when he goes over here, you can actually see it
that
setting at 600 baud.
tested, I think.
So it's
Everything
working.
I can
So the bit banger's working on this
on the board.
totally new CoCo 2 motherboard as well. So we were trying to get him on for this week. He was actually away and couldn't do it this week. So we're planning on having him on next week. So if any of you guys have any questions on his CoCo 2 motherboard design, or maybe some further things, like one thing I thought of during this week was one thing, since we have a working, functioning CoCo 2 duplicate motherboard now that we can mass produce, or even just produce in small batches, you could also change it a little bit to say have the CocoVGA pre-installed as part of the motherboard instead of having all these little satellite boards and stuff. And then maybe we could even 3D print a case or something to have the cables coming out directly or whatever. And then you could actually purchase a CoCo 1 or 2 equivalent CocoVGA built in as a system.
New in the box.
Yeah, and maybe throw in a GMC or some other sound card or something else. You could actually create a new CoCo 2 with a lot of these extra features we've been adding over the years built in.
Don't forget a real-time clock.
Well, I want one of the CoCo 3 before the CoCo 1 2 gets it. Come on. Anyway, so we're planning, as long as schedules continue to match. So far, so good. We plan on having him on the show next week. So any of you want to come up with some questions or comments, please have them ready for the show next week. I'm hoping that'll be a nice long discussion because it's a pretty fascinating project. And it definitely has some potential for where the CoCo can go in the future, since obviously Tandy doesn't make them anymore. Next up, now Mark had brought this up at the beginning of the show, so those of you that have joined late, this will be new to you, and those of you who have joined right from the beginning here, this has some of the details you'll need. So Glenside, because the CoCoFest itself has been delayed till November, and that's not a for sure thing. It's pretty sure. I mean, vaccinations are going quite well, et cetera here. So we should hopefully be able to gather in November for the actual CoCoFest show. They decided to do a virtual SpringFEST sponsored by the club. And this is basically just a meet and greet. You can log in with BlueJeans. You can phone in with a real telephone. BlueJeans is available on various operating systems, including mobile and desktops, laptops, et cetera. And it's basically just, pop in, say hi to everybody. It's kind of just a CoCo community gathering type thing. Just sitting around, chat for a while. If you can only pop by for 5 minutes, that's fine. If you want to hang out for the whole thing, that's fine too. And that's happening tonight, starting at 7 p.m. Central Time. I think I had Eastern in my notes, but that's wrong. So there's the phone number information, and Mark will be posting the link to this page on Glenside's site, so you can get the details. There's the BlueJeans call number. There's also the phone in if you're in the United States and from other places as well, what the meeting IDs are that you need to do. And they're expecting it to last probably at least 2 hours, depending on who all pops in. I definitely will be popping in for a little bit tonight myself. So hope to see you guys there, and invite all your CoCo friends. Okay, so next up, we're getting into a couple of MC-10 stories. So the first one, Darren Atkinson has released an update to the MCX32 Basic, which is now up to version 3.1, which is basically bug fixes for the most part. Now, his basic, MCX Basic, is basically an enhancement that basically brings the MC-10 Basic almost up to extended basic in a lot of ways. So you get, P mode 0 and 1, and you can do PCLS and PCoPi and a bunch of other things. So it gives you a lot of stuff added on. It actually supports the MC, which is the equivalent of drive wire for the MC-10 server, so you can load stuff off that. There's just basically a ton of stuff in here. So he's got a list of all the different things that were fixed here. He's also adjusted some things for the Alice, which we covered last week when we discovered there were some other Alices besides the standard one, which I didn't know about. So the Alices actually ran at higher clock speeds, some of the later ones. And this actually will fix the timer interval. And I think the sound routine then gets fixed too, so the pitches are correct, because otherwise they play way too fast. It's like doing a double speed poke on a CoCo. So I don't know if anybody here is lucky enough to have an Alice, but if you have one of the later ones where it actually runs, at double clock speed all the time, that's a pretty cool feature too. And you can play your Jim Gerrie games at much faster rates. So any of you with an MC-10 or an Alice, free download, go grab it. There was one quirk I saw mentioned on Facebook. that the pcopy commands do not run until you do a pmode command first, which was not required in the original version and was not required on the CoCo. So there's one little quirk of syntax there. As long as you just do a pmode 0, you don't have to activate the screen to see it or anything. You just have to do that one command, which, as far as I can tell, initializes the graphic system so it knows that a pcopy is legal. Type thing. So one little thing to worry about. But pretty good upgrade. A lot of bug fixes and free download. Next up in the MC-10 group, we have Jim McClellan, who's we kind of mentioned last week, was working on a banner printer program for the MC-10 and his newly acquired toilet paper TP10 thermal printer. And he actually got a little sample of it here. MC-10 rules. So this currently is a work in progress. This is basically a version 1, and it will allow a 64 character banner with alphanumeric, so uppercase letters and numbers, and the exclamation point is currently the only fancy character he's got in there. Yeah, so he'll be adding more as he goes. So version 1 was basically just to get it to print text, but then you can make these huge banners that come out, and the full width of the paper is the height of the character set, and you can print it as long as you want because there's a continuous roll of paper until you tear it off. It's not like dot matrix where it's perforated in the middle or anything like that. So you can make banners you can hang on your walls, etc. And I remember there used to be tons of these for the CoCos back in the day. Al Hartman, I know they used to sell one through the companies that he's worked through back in the early 80s. So I mean, that's just one, and then there's CoCo 3 versions of stuff too. So it's nice that the MC-10 has a new one here too. There's been a lot of interest in using MC-10s, CoCos, etc. with real printers from the day lately. It's kind of weird. I never thought I'd see that again. Anyway, he's got a free download to that. It's a Google Plus link, which I'll let Mark post. I won't bother linking the page here because it's kind of useless to watch it.
Already posted.
Cool. Next up, we have a few Dragon stories, and we'll make a little plug here early that if Ron DeVille's still on and he's still awake, he's definitely going to like the 4th one. But enough of that teaser. So the first one here, NitroSign native support for the Dragon Plus. We covered the Dragon Plus a little bit last week as well. This is the add-on card that adds 64K of extra RAM. It also adds an 80 column card with composite out. This is examples of the 80 column composite out here. And it actually shows the 64K RAM drive being initialized under NitroSign with 236 sectors free. So that distribution that has full support for the Dragon Plus is now out. You can download it. So this is OS9 or NitroSign level 1. I don't know if he's done a 6309 enhanced version of this one or not. I didn't get a chance to check that, but you could definitely speed up the RAM drive, for example, or even scrolling the screen and stuff on the 80 column screen. But it's nice. The bonus feature of this too is that the Dragon version of OS9 was a little bit different by default than the CoCo one. The CoCo one defaulted to the 512 byte 32 by 16, green screen we're all used to, which takes 512 bytes of RAM from the system itself to have the screen. The Dragons kind of poo-pooed that and said, who wants to run on that piece of crap screen? So they basically have their drivers default to running a graphics screen, a 6K graphics screen, PMode 4 basically, with a custom graphical character set, and they usually ran it in 42 or 51 column, kind of like if you remember TeleWriter or VIP Writer from back in the day, that type of a font. But that, of course, eats 6K of system RAM. This 80 column screen has its RAM on the Dragon Plus board, so it's actually not included in the Dragon's RAM. So you get 6K back, plus you get an 80 column screen. So this gives you a ton more memory to play with, especially considering level 1, you only have 64K for the operating system, your programs, and anything else you're doing, period. That's all you have. So you have a 64K RAM drive for really fast pseudo disk access. So if you have commonly used utilities that you can copy them on the RAM drive and run them straight off there. They're instant loading basically at that point. Plus you get an 80 column screen, plus you get 6K of your system memory back. So it's like a win-win-win all the way around. So that's freely downloadable as well. And like I said, I'll have to go check to see if they have a 639 version. If not, maybe I'll have to convince them to do that, because I think it'd be kind of cool to have an enhanced Dragon with really fast speeds. Next one up, XROR tape reading updates. I kind of alluded to this earlier here for Ron Klein, because Kieran had mentioned to me in a private chat, which was actually about something totally different that'll be coming up in the next few weeks. But basically, he's been finding that a couple of the commercial games from back in the day in the Dragon seem to have this little ghosty effect. It's probably from the tape duplicating machine they were using at the time. You get this very faint echo. And he had a very precise crossover timing and stuff, and also the level of the reads. And it would start to pick this up in IO error, yet it would work on a real Dragon. So he finally figured out what was going on there, and he's done a tweak, which is kind of like in a beta test right now, which is why it hasn't shown up on the Pi automatically. That is to fix this, and it appears to be working. So he's given some details here on the post on the Dragon World of Dragon archive message board, but he's also got it available for download on his site if you want to try it. And I'm assuming this would work on the NTSC as well. Or sorry, this is the expert, so it doesn't really matter. But it should fix some of those ones if you're trying to transfer real tapes over and you've got a little bit of that echoey background or a little bit of noise in general that would read on a real hardware but would not read an export. It should read now. Please, if you do try that, give him some feedback. If you still have some that don't quite work properly, maybe send him the WAV of the tape in question so that he can maybe play with the settings a little bit more and try to make it more universal. So far, he hasn't heard of any that are not working that work on real hardware now. This seems to have fixed it, but if you guys have any exceptions, please send them up to Ciaran. Next up is, this was an interesting one. Philip Hennerbert, he's been digging up. Now, he's got a collection of CoCo and Dragon stuff. And he's just been kind of like taking it out of storage lately. So he came across a couple things that I don't know too much about either. So the first one is this strange looking thing, which is, I don't know, a composite something or other. It's got, you know.
Oh, that's, don't you know what that is? Of course I do. That's the Digiscan video digitizer.
Oh, really?
Wasn't that made by an Australian guy?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had the Rascan, that big box one, so I didn't see this.
Yeah, no, that's the Digiscan.
Oh, okay. Well, I will make a note of that. I will make a note of that because I'll let him know then.
Yeah.
So you can explain what all these different ports are for then, because you got quite a few cables in there plus 2 dials.
Well, there's two joystick connections, one cassette, and video in is the RCA. And the dials, you got black and white, which sets the black level for the incoming video, and white is for the white level, or the peak point for the incoming video signal. So you adjust those to try get the best spread of dithering during the capture. Yeah.
Okay. And this worked on PAL and NTSC, or did you have to have separate versions?
Yeah. It will work on both.
Okay. I'll send him a comment after the show's done here, but yeah, thanks for letting me know.
I would send him a link to my website if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea.
Does he have the software? I might have to send him the software.
Well, the thing is, because he's just digging stuff out of storage, everything hardware separated from all the software stuff, so he probably doesn't even know they're related if he does have it. So
yeah.
You didn't put a name on the box, Nick?
No, I didn't.
Those aren't going to work
that
on
was
Dragon.
That was before my that was before my fetish for Ferrari, so I didn't really bother.
Now the Digiscan was your last version, right? Because it was
yeah. It was the working one.
Hey, the Rascan worked. I had one for years.
Yeah, it did work. Yeah.
It was big and bulky.
Digiscan was the refined version. Yeah.
Because you had 2 dials on that one too, but it was in a plastic box that was probably
in that big brick, wasn't it?
8 inches deep or something like that. Yeah, that's
the one
6 inches
wide. Game Point Software commissioned. Yeah, that was the worst one.
That's where I first got introduced to your games and stuff. So
well, there we go.
And the second one he got here, does anybody recognize this Delta Pro thing? Stereo headphone, mic line in, left and right. Not sure exactly what that is. I'm not even sure if this is a Dragon product or a CoCo product.
Looks kind of homemade.
Well, if a lot of the CoCo stuff back then kind of looked homemade. So.
Any more views of it?
No, I was just going to check. Like, I haven't checked the comments today, so I'm wondering.
It's like another sampler.
Right. They might be doing the same trick. Use all the I/O, and then you've got some.
Okay, he's got an update here. Delta Pros for the CoCo. Sorry, wrong group. For further Googling, Delta Pro sound by Lucas Industries. Use the Delta or change method of recording sound. Digitized sound is not possible with minimum memory usage.
Yeah, sampled through the joysticks.
Yeah, so it's using the ADD from the joystick ports, which is 6-bit conversion basically.
Cool thing is, it would be playable back on the Dragon. He would use CoCo to record it.
Yeah.
I
In
think
fact,
that's,
go ahead.
I was just going to say that's 6 bits by 4, remember, because they're using all the ports. So,
yeah. And if you record on a CoCo 3 with the higher CPU speeds, you can get, decent quality at a higher bit rate. You can play those back fast on the Dragon. I mean, you wouldn't be able to record them quite as quick, but yeah, it's kind of cool. Anyway, thanks for letting me know on that, Nick. I'll let him know.
As soon as I saw that picture, I thought that's a Digis game.
Yeah, I didn't even cross my mind because like Digis or the Rascan to me is like a much different looking beast. And next one is Ron Delvaux still on the call?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, this next one is kind of with you in mind.
Okay.
Because we were talking about Pearl earlier, and
yeah.
So this one here, David F. Gisbert posted a picture of his dog, who is obviously a huge Dragon fan. Guarding the Dragon software in her paws so that the human can't steal it from her.
Please don't play it.
She's got the game on pause.
Ooh.
That's a groaner, Nick. Thanks.
Good night.
Play with me, don't play with the game.
So have you ever got Pearl posed with some CoCo stuff like that, Ron?
I never did. Well, I have her posed in front of a bunch of cars.
I just find that cute. I should actually ask if this was like staged. The dog was half asleep and just stuck it between the paws, or if that's actually a play or chew toy for the dog. I don't know.
Yeah, chew toy. Yow.
Let's see if Kieran's X-Roar patch can read those tapes after they've been chewed on by the dog. And that is the end of the news this week.
Oh, gee.
Okay.
And I thought you'd like that one, Ron. So I stuck that one in.
It's a good one.
Because I've had another Samuel Gimes episode singing. So
yeah. Oh boy.
Do you want to take a commercial break or go into updates?
Play an old Samuel Gimes.
No, that wasn't too long, I don't think. So if you want to hit the updates, I don't think there's too many this week anyway. So
oh, we don't have a theme for updates. Let's see my lists. Rick, you had something? You're up.
Sure. Let me steal the screen here. And so when we left our heroes last week, I was stuck at this error page. I did manage to fix that. And I got my web server to talk to me. And so once I had that done, I of course had to write a bit of a parser. So I made this screen, which should look like this, but that's as good as I got this week.
Links to be proud.
So, hey, I've got the world's most useless web browser running in DECB. The problem with that here, I can show you the problem with that if I can remember how to roll this window down. And we'll run bad movie here. So here's the speed. Obviously, we could use a TFM right about now.
Yep.
And now let's parse that.
Did you use a double speed poke?
Dump, 97, dump. And so here's the actual parsing speed of the thing. We're waiting for the second string to read in. So
what baud rate equivalent were you using in this?
So this is 10100, and that's as good as I can. This is DECB doing a quick loop, just peek the data port, character string.
That's all in basic.
Peek the data port, character string. Yeah, we could definitely use some driver support right about now.
Are you using at least the hex ones, like %H?
Yeah, but
because those are faster.
But yeah, it's let's see.
You also have to realize it's parsing actual HTML and has to break it out, format it.
No, I've written a Basic 9 one that's a little tiny bit more advanced than that. Actually does bold and a few other tags.
Yeah, I mean, here's my parser. It's like 15 lines of basic. It's not much of a parser, but it does prove the point. The only thing I've got between me and the world is an Ethernet cable, and it's working. Obviously with a very simplified screen, because the only thing I'm doing is text and headers so far, but throw in some image tags and stuff, and we got the start of a usable thing. I just need a way to get data in and out faster than what I can.
Machine language.
Yeah.
Well,
ML
right.
driver.
We're waiting on Mark and Bill and Alan and everyone
Well,
else.
it's good. That proves that the hardware is working.
Well, exactly. Yeah, we're somewhere, and it proves that the server will wait on you as long as it needs to wait to give you that second packet. So
yeah. Have you tried? Like, I know you use OS9 quite a bit. Have you tried using BaseCo9, which of course is a lot faster doing peaks and stuff like that with interviews?
I haven't got there yet. I mean, to be frank, I'm so far behind on CoCo knowledge at this point, because I mean, the last time I used BaseCo9 was in '97, and pretty much the same with DECB, but DECB is really quick to pick up, and I want to do my example code in that because everyone knows the formatting, or at least has the manual. So it's a good way to write pseudocode and prove that it works to myself before I give it to other people.
Remind me on Discord later this week. I do have my very basic HTML parser I wrote too, way back in the day in BaseCo9, which handles, like I said, like bold and maybe center and a few other specific things. I can't remember what exactly it had, but actually use a graphic screen so you could actually do bolding properly and stuff too. I can send you the raw code for that, and you can use, all you have to do is add your peak stuff for your thing there, and it should run a fair bit faster.
That would be cool. And because I want to start playing with side loading images on a second socket and things like that. And this would be, as long as you have a lot of time, it would be a way to experiment with that, and buffer rollovers and things.
I'll see if I can hunt down my original BaseCo9 source there, because I do have it around somewhere. Might even be on EOU. I might have thrown it on there already and just forgot to. I don't know. I'll check.
Oh yeah, just go to this directory, you dummy. Cool, and that's really all I have. I've been beating my head against that and other things this week. So
cool.
So Mark, did you have Marco? Did you have something you wanted to show us?
Oh, just something I found this week.
Oh, with Martin Junior's
Computer
graphics. That's his one of basic graphics, remember, not machine language, right?
Oh, it's for both.
What's both?
I haven't cracked it open yet, so I think I have the PDF somewhere.
The initial examples are basic. They're very, but he does like all of the semi-graphics modes and shows you like exactly how it lays out in memory and within the byte itself. It's really well done for just understanding the basic BGG setup.
Cool. Does it get into how to do like hardware smooth scrolling with BDG counters and stuff?
Not quite. Just like the Ed Tasm book, when you get to the chapter on interrupts, it says not here.
Okay.
Everything has limits.
Yeah.
Cool. And I think we actually have a leftover from last week, Sloopy. You were going to show us something last week and we gave up.
Yeah, sorry about that. My son needed me for a moment at the end. So a couple people have asked me about this obscenely large MC-10. Yes, I just recently acquired it. The one that Allison had posted on the CoCo group that at that price it had feet for walking. Well, it walked to my house. So I got it. It works and had no problems with it. It was like 55 shipped, I do believe, or something like that, maybe 55 plus shipping. I also, I'm sorry?
Cheap.
Yes. And as you can see, there's a CoCo one on top of it. That is actually a Raspberry Pi 4 case that originally I was making for my Raspberry Pi, but I decided to go in a different direction for my Raspberry Pi. So when I finally get around to finishing it, I will be actually giving it away to one lucky viewer.
Oh, cool.
So also the my final acquisition is I've acquired the time to actually release the drive wire boards and the drive wirelessly boards for all machines except for the CoCo 2. So I will be doing a full write-up and review and video on them working and all, and be putting them on sale. So if anyone wants to is interested in purchasing, they can contact me either on the CoCo Discord or on Facebook. The links will be in the time codes when I do them tonight.
So that's for the CoCo 3 and the CoCo 1s?
Yes, the CoCo 1 and 3, the drive wirelessly boards will work. There's an issue with the CoCo 2 because of the way the PIA chip is further down underneath the keyboard, that I need to make a new PCB for it that brings it back a little bit so that you can actually close the machine. The drive wire board that actually includes the HDB DOS or YaDOS will work and fit in the CoCo 2, but the drive wirelessly board is what makes it so great. So, but
no,
yeah.
I was going to ask, because there's quite a few different motherboard designs of the CoCo 2 motherboard, depending what age it was. Does it work on any of those, or is that kind of the same positioning on all of them for that particular spot?
That I don't know. I only have the one with the horizontal RF can. I don't have a CoCo 2 with the vertical can, and everyone I've seen with the vertical can, they've gone for obscene amounts of money, so I haven't been able to do anything about it. I have two with the horizontal can, and they'll definitely be working no problem in them. And I've looked at pictures of the other one, and evidently if it works in the one with the horizontal can, it will work in the one with the vertical can.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, if anyone has questions, they can send them to me, either Discord or on Facebook.
Well, one question I'll throw up, just for especially newer viewers that don't even know too much about this project. How much are you charging for them?
The drive wirelessly board will be 20, and the internal drive wire board will be 30. If you buy them both at the same time, it'll be 45.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I understand that it's just under the price of a CoCo SDC, but the thing is, I went through the numbers, and literally I'm making almost no money off of it. It's more of the parts and such that's bringing up the price. So especially with the way shipping has been increasing in price and the prices of everything.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Cool.
Ron, did you have something for us today?
Yeah, just a little stupid thing that I usually do. Let's see.
Oh, so hang on. Let me find it. Where is it? There it is. Okay, Ron, take it away.
Okay. It says I can't do it until now.
Now you can.
Yeah. Is it up? Let's see, share. Wait a minute. Now it is.
There we go.
Okay, Ron's Garage. Terry Steggy sent me this a while back, and I've had it up, and I've been putting some stuff on it and playing with it. It's like being back in 1996. It's a lot of fun. It's in my garage, so therefore I show it.
Are there flying toasters?
Yeah, I found this at Goodwill yesterday. I didn't buy it, but it's a 4-cassette duplicator, I guess.
Sweet.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
They wanted $30 for it.
Wow.
Nah, don't want it.
Yeah, it's probably more like a Dragon user probably wouldn't mind getting that, because they still use
Yeah.
cassette a lot more than we do.
And it's mono, so it's probably good for making tapes for the CoCo.
Yep.
But I didn't get it. And I have on occasion play my William Tell overture on my through my phone in the car, turn it up and drive with the windows down.
Damn kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a graphic I made of the Tandy Coco 1, 2, 3. Just kind of something interesting. I think Ron Klein might be doing something with it. I sent him some copies of that. He might be doing something, just cooking up something. And then this is Taz. I thought, you know what? Taz is a really neat little character. Maybe we can come up with something similar to him where he kind of like bold and strong instead of this wimpy cat, you know. And then the MC-10.
You can definitely tell you're a dog person, Ron.
Yeah, and then the MC-10 is a baby one. They had baby Taz.
Coco Taz, baby Taz.
Yeah, so we got to come up with something similar. Maybe I'll make something up and have it real close, but no, you know, not
Yeah,
exact.
not get sued.
Yeah. But you know, I was looking, and people make T-shirts and, you know, change it a little and have sayings and stuff, and I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, what I did was copied it using the VG6 mode, and this is the high color too, and it came out pretty good, you know, pretty decent little guy. And then somebody a guy did Adrian's Basement did I just posted this because I pulled out my 16K basic CoCo 2 and put audio spectrum analyzer on it and was playing with it through my cell phone. So I just took a picture, threw it up on there, and then somebody mentioned here that this guy had done it. Where's that? I don't know. Anyway, this guy has real cool can you hear it?
Nope.
No, but I've seen the video. He talks about how cool it was that this existed in 1981.
Yeah, I think we featured it on the show some months ago.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, he finds out that there's all kinds of buttons you can push.
Yeah, get kaleidoscope and like that kind of effects and stuff.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. The guy did a nice job.
Now, I will mention one of the comments on your post about the audio spectrum analyzer there would mention that one person was really disappointed that it no longer worked on the CoCo 3 when the CoCo 3 came out. I mean, technically it works, you just can't see it because of the semi-graphics mode. I will mention that is fixed on the Gimme X. It does work again.
Cool.
And I noticed in the text underneath there, Can Make It said he never figured out how to win that game.
Yeah, well, he was always into scripts that he didn't care about any other games anyway. So,
anybody else have any updates?
Tim, anything interesting happening in MAME?
Nothing at all.
Translation, yeah, but I can't tell you yet.
Yeah, the grin totally gives you away, Tim.
Yeah. So the MegaMini MPI sound chip support, that's what we're waiting for, I think.
What's on your shirt, Tim?
YouTuber by the name of Vintage Beef.
Oh, that looks 8-bitish.
Yeah, he streams a lot of Minecraft.
Yeah.
Oh.
Obviously, Ron doesn't play Minecraft.
No. No.
And Ken Reichert in the chat says, "Oh yeah, baby, I have the high score and scripts it."
I'll be getting a new machine to run my emulation software on in about a month.
i4?
No, the new iMac. I'm going to get the new iMac.
Oh,
the
okay.
the new M1. Yep.
What color?
What color? That's what everyone's asking.
Purple?
I would know blue, probably blue.
You'll have to let me know if you try to compile MAME yourself.
I'll give it a shot. I'll be happy to give it a shot, and because I'd love to road test it because it's an M1. It's interesting thing about the M1 is it's to run the Intel software. You run it through like a converter called Rosetta, which kind of changes the Intel code into M1 executable code, and a lot of the Intel software is running faster on M1 going through the converter than it does on an actual Intel hardware, which is really quite amazing.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm anxious
Who
to.
makes the M1? What?
Back in 2010, 2011, when Apple came out with the iPad, we started developing our own chip because Intel was not interested in developing chips for the mobile devices, the iPhone and the iPad. So over the last 10 years or so, we've been developing our own in-house silicon, and they're designed for iPhones and iPads, which are fanless, battery-operated devices. And we've gotten so good at it. Basically, everything is a system on a chip. So the CPU, 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU, 16-core AI unit, and 8 or 16 gigs of RAM, all on one chip. So by doing that, you get this amazing efficiency. So you can run it on battery, very low power, generates very little heat. Little heat means you can put them in, iPhone and iPad. The MacBook Air that we just came out with that has the M1 chip does not have any fans. The Mac Pro and the iMac have fans. And so you get this amazing efficiency and amazing power, compute power for very little, energy.
It's based on ARM cores, if I remember right.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
They've secret sauced some of the other stuff, but in the last year, they've pried a lot about how the M1 works apart. And on this particular generation, what they're doing is 4 cores, high power, 4 cores, low power. And it's got a lot of intelligence in the bus to determine which core needs to be doing the next task so that you can get a lot of power when you need it or a lot of efficiency when you need it. And you're not having to program for it. It's figuring a lot of that out.
Yeah, the load balancing is done internally on the chip.
Well, it's probably through the OS or maybe on board the chip. I don't know.
Well, let's hope that none of those argue with each other.
But yeah, the initial ARM doesn't really make chips anymore. They just basically license out the technology to everybody, nowadays.
Well, NVIDIA was buying ARM, and now I saw that the UK is now putting up a bit of a government block on it. They may block the whole thing.
Who was?
So I don't know what's going on there. Was it NVIDIA?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the initial, I think it was the ARM7 architecture was what we licensed from them initially, but that was, 10 years ago, and we've taken it from there. But the initial base, it is ARM based processor.
Yeah. So thank you, John, for the Apple ad.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same as Raspberry Pi when you really get down to it.
Yeah, they're both ARM designs. So.
Well, he explained it really well.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited though. When I get it, I'll show it off. I'll show it off running my CoCo emulation. So.
Yeah, I know some beta on the Parallels, which is the way to run Windows and stuff on it. Actually, seem to be running fairly well. I don't know Fusion. I don't know how far along they are along.
Yeah. Well, Parallels can run. And I imagine they're going to write or compile native M1 code for Parallels. So that you can run Windows under Parallels. Obviously, a native installation isn't possible unless Microsoft has Windows compiled under ARM.
Yeah, that's the one that runs faster right now on the M1 than it does on their own hardware.
Yeah. So if they allow it, then we'll be able to install an ARM-based version of Windows on the M1 machine.
We got a comment from Jack JBS that Microsoft also has an ARM version. That's true, and also the Parallels has released the M1 version. I know it was in beta a while ago, but I didn't realize they actually released it. So
out already, huh? Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Hopefully, VMware Fusion's not too far behind because that's what I use.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
All right, are we ready for the outro?
Unless anybody else has got any final comments.
Nope. I talked to Paul Martin just a little bit ago. And he's in the hospital still, but he's doing a lot better. And they're, he's going to be getting chemo soon. So, yeah, be praying for him, the poor guy.
Yeah, I did see he's actually been active on Facebook a little bit lately, so I was hoping that meant things were going better. So
Yeah, he's feeling better.
Cool. Get well soon, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
This concludes another episode of CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy Color computer. For all things CoCoTALK, visit us on the web at cocotalk.live. We'd love to hear from you. Send feedback, suggestions, even segments via email to cocotalk@cocotalk.live. Consider supporting the show with a purchase of merchandise from our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. If you'd like to become a patron of the show, click on the Patreon link on our website, cocotalk.live. CoCoTALK would not exist without the community, its cast, crew, and contributors. Thanks go to Alan Murphy, Bill Noble, Brian Joyce, Brian Weasler, Curtis Boyle, D. Bruce Moore, Danny O'Connor, David Ladd, Eric Canales, Grant Leedy, James Diffendaffer, Jason Reichert, Jim Brain, Ken Reichert, Mark Bosley, Mark Overholzer, Mikey Furman, Mr. Dave 6309, Nick Marentes, Nick Marotta, Nick Marotta, Nick Marotta, Paul Fiscarelli, Richard Lorbieski, Rick Adams, Rick Euland, Rob Inman, Ron Delvaux, Samuel Gimes, Sloopy Malibu, Steve Bjork, Terry Steggy, Tom C., and many more. Please help support the CoCo community. A list of various contributors and resources are available at imacoconut.com. That's imacoconut.com. The original CoCoTALK theme song is copyright 2008 by D. Bruce Moore and Greg Sheeler. The new CoCoTALK theme song is copyright 2020 by D. Bruce Moore. Both are mixed, mastered, and produced by D. Bruce Moore. CoCo forever, people!
And we're back for the final goodbyes.
And also
Any
a big
final-
reminder to join the virtual fest event that Glenside's sponsoring tonight with BlueJeans, or if you hit their website, there's also ways to telephone in if you can't get in with a computer or device.
3
And hope
hours
to see
from
some
now.
of you guys there.
3 hours.
Hope to see you all there.
So you got just enough time to watch this show again on YouTube. And then it'll be ready to go.
Why on earth you would want to, I have no idea. But yeah.
They'll watch the parts you nap through.
Yeah.
Okay, so the whole show. Good. Gotcha.
Does it get better the second time around?
Only if you play it at 1.5 speed.
Some people say it does.
Just as good as food taste coming up the second time around. So yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Say goodbye, everybody.
Great.
Goodbye,
Next week we'll see you
Bye,
tonight on
everybody.
BlueJeans on the virtual fest. So
Yes.
see you later.
Yeah, I'll probably show
Have
up.
a good evening, everyone.